All right. Good morning, afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever it is. I hope it's good for you because it's great to be here with you guys. Welcome back to the True Crime Cafe. I, of course, am Mr. Dago, and it is great to be back with you guys as we are jumping right back into the University of Idaho murder situation, guys. I went over some docs or a document last night. There's many more and a lot more explanation that needs to be done in discussion. So I'm going to be opening today up a little bit of a different show today because there is so much to look at. I just wanted to handle it all. It might take a little longer than normal, but we're going to do it. So thank you guys so very much for joining us tonight. Today it is afternoon here, but please, guys, share this out. Get everybody in here that you know would want to be in here. Let them know what we're doing. And I think that's going to do it. You know the rest. Here we go. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back again. Great to see you all. Thank you for joining us here at the cafe. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to join us here as we review this and some other things. Talk about some stuff that's going on, some changes that again have happened over in Idaho, some things that are really eye opening, I guess you could say. And wow, what a mix up and mess up and crazy change up this has all been. We do have there's an interview I kind of wanted to review with you guys as well and get your thoughts on that between I think Daniel from Drunk Turkey and Mr. Steve Goncalves. First and foremost, before we go anywhere, guys, I know a lot of people have some feelings about certain things, certain people. We try to keep everything level here, guys. I do not want anybody attacking the victims. Of course, we do not do the victim shaming in here, nor the families, guys. Whether we agree with what they do or not do, they are the victims, or the families of the victims, and they deserve that respect. We can have our opinions, and I respect that, guys, because I have my own opinions, of course, but we're not going to lash out at them or make any negative comments towards them in here. I ask that politely, please, and thank you. And mainly just respect each other's feelings, opinions, thoughts, and theories in here, guys. That's all I ask for. Everybody here is treated equal. Everybody here has the right to their feelings, opinions, thoughts. Just use a little respect, folks. That's all we ask here. This community is wide open for everybody's thoughts to be expressed. That's what I like to hear. And I like to hear people vocally express their opinions and feelings on this stuff because it's been one hell of a circus, guys. It's been a ride that I did not see this coming, have not seen this coming. So, whether you believe Brian Koberger did this or didn't do this, or Steve Goncalves was right or wrong, so on and so forth, all of this deserves a level of respect. And when we show that respect, it shows who we are as a community. And I want to keep that being the way that is. And I respect and love this community to every aspect you can believe. I, in my opinion, believe that this community is the best community on YouTube. Has the best people. I do have the most amazing team here in the Blue Crew, and I couldn't do this without them. So, of course, again, make sure everybody respects them as well, and I appreciate that. Other than that, you guys, we're here to do what we do, and that is to try to understand and see where the truth lies within all of this and how justice is going to be served to these victims in this horrible situation. And that's what it is. We're not going to solve the crime. We're not attorneys, we're not judges, we're not law enforcement, but we can see things for what it is, guys. And where the truth lies is what's most important to me here. This channel is about truth. It's not about pro burger or no burger or any of that burger or any other burger. It's truth and justice. And that's it, folks. And I respect everybody here for that. Because I think everybody in here is in the same boat for the same reason. So thank you all for that. And that's a problem. There's been a lot of mistruth and misrepresentation, misinterpretation. We got to sort through that, kind of picking through and reading between the lines and seeing what we can find that is truth, guys. So again, thank you all for being here to help us do that. I'm going to give this a few minutes, guys, to get everybody in here so that once we start, we don't have to go backwards and come, pick it back up. So bear with it. Talk amongst yourselves as I will talk amongst you. While we're waiting on everybody to jump in here. We got 50 people in the house thus far, guys. Please make sure as you come through the door to please hit that like button and share this out, guys, so we can get this up into that algorithm where we belong so that everybody can see and hear what we're talking about. It's that important as far as I'm concerned. Meanwhile, while we're waiting, let's see who we have with us so far. Miss Wisdom Speaks in the house. Thank you once again for joining us. One Maiden Nut, Eddie, welcome back, brother. Good to see you again. Gaya Deguchi, welcome back to you. Miss your girl, always a pleasure. Great to see you. Miss Leah Story, always happy to have you here, dear. Leah's been around for a long, long time, guys. And I love seeing these faces that have been here for 2 to 3 years plus, including the new faces. I'm very happy to see all these new faces as well, and I really appreciate each and every one of you guys so very much for that. And choosing to be here with us to do this. Ida Toes, welcome back to you. And again, SRBB, thank you for that. Guys, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you have not, so you don't miss any of these shows that we do. Right. I am me. Welcome back to you. Great to see all this green in here, all these awesome meatballs jumping in the sauce with us. I love it, love it. Miss Bonnie Bailey, my love, good to see you. I hope you're doing well today. Wonderful to have you here, as always. Great to see you. The 360 Life, welcome back to you. Great to see you. Again, let me see here. Jesse Schul, wonderful. I love having Jesse here. I hope Jesse chooses to jump up and join us up here today. Elliot Pollock, yes. Let's see here. Great to see you, my friend, as well. I'm going to try to hit everybody. Miss Cassie, the sassy one in the house. Great to see you again. I am me. Great to have you here. Thank you, Leah. Yes, Elliot, we're just getting started, my friend. So you didn't miss out on nothing. Miss Eve A, 22, great to see you. Did I miss somebody here? I don't think so. Nope. Kelly Coker, welcome back to you. Great to see you today. Excuse me. Come on in. Get comfortable. Grab a seat. Grab your cup of joe. Maybe another one. That way you don't have to take off and refill. Alicia J, always a pleasure to have you here, along with the rest of the Blue Crew. Brandy B, the OG. Miss Paula Pitts Henry, such an honor to see you here and your positivity in the house. Love having you here, as always. Makeup Queen, hello and welcome. Wonderful to have you here. It's a new face and new name. Always happy to see that. Dagburn, Johnny Gobble's Dad Floozy Mama's in the house. Thank you for joining us. Miss Dagburn, always a pleasure. Miss Tracy, hello and welcome back. Captain Jenks, my brother, good to see you, and thank you for joining us. Samira Dalby, always pleasure to see you as well. Let me see. Can we all at least concede to the existence of a soy burger since Co-Burgers is into soy? Sure thing. I can go with that, Elliot. Absolutely. That's a great, interesting point, 360. I can agree with that. Said I must admit that the Steve Goncalves interview made me think the man's lost a daughter. If it were me, I would be worse. But sometimes I think he is so blinkered by the single suspect. He may be right. We will see. Absolutely, we will. Yes, great statement. Anina B, welcome back. Great to see you today. Yeah, and that's a good statement. Well, we understand everyone has an opinion. Please refrain from discussing others' lives in the chats. We like to keep drama away from the channel. And unless I bring up another creators chat, which we may do that, let's just not. And let's try not. I try not to talk down about other creators, whether I agree or disagree. Let's try not to do that, and just show that respect there. Every creator deserves the respect in the work that they do, whether we agree or disagree. And I know you can all agree with that. Um, and that's pretty much it there, guys. Oh, come on with this stuff over here again already. There we go. Okay. Let me see. If I make sure I didn't miss anybody over here. Angel with the Nays in the house. Welcome back to you. Great to see you today. Thank you for joining us. All right. Come on. 65 of you awesome and beautiful peeps in the house. 41 likes, guys. Let's see if we can make that match a little bit better. And again, share this out, please, and hit the like button when you come through that door. He will be getting kicked up here soon. Oh, absolutely, Miss Angel. Thank you for being here. There's our Miss Licity J. Great to see you. It's been a minute. Great to have you back. Welcome back, Miss. Good to see you today. Appreciate seeing each and every one of you guys here. Some of you guys don't get notifications. I'm sorry for that. Try to keep everybody in the loop for people that I think may not get them. Let's see here. All right. SOBB. Yes, Miss Brandy, I did say hello to you again. She never hears me. One of the first ones I say hello to, and she just never ever hears me. Hello, Miss Brandy. Did you hear that one? Miss Angel says, "Good morning from Australia. I'm often here, but watch on TV, so not helping in chat." No worries, Miss Angel. We appreciate you being here. We love our people from other areas, from down under. Of course, our UK peeps and everybody else. Love seeing you guys travel so far just to hang out with us. I think Jesse's in Thailand. Australia, Thailand, the UK. We even have somebody, I can't think of the name, but I see them here from South Africa. Somebody else that was here from Japan once or twice. Pretty awesome to me. Elizabeth Wagner, welcome. Great to see you. And again, guys, if anybody's interested in jumping into sauce and becoming an official meatball with the rest of us, and you want to jump in here and spill the sauce with us on a regular, please do. There's the link right there to do it. Miss SRB is hanging it out. Thank you so very much. Again, SRB for that. And that's right. Gaia's out of Poland. I forgot about that. Yes. Pretty awesome, Gaia. And thank you for being here. And guys, that's a link to our TikTok. If you would be kind enough to check it out and follow it. If you're a TikTok person, you won't be disappointed. Miss Brainy runs that and handles everything all on her own. She does an amazing job. Awesome. Miss Anina B is from Finland. That's awesome. I love seeing all the foreigners coming in here. This is amazing. It's amazing to me that you guys come this far to hang out with us and talk about this situation from clear across the world like that. It's amazing. Amazing. Miss Kaylee, welcome from the UK. Good to see you, Miss Kaylee. And Karma Police are in the house. Everybody, you better behave today. Great to see you, Kaylee. I hope you're doing wonderful today. 78 of you guys here. Guys, please make sure to hit the like button. We got 50 likes. Let's see if we can make it match. We really need to get this in an algorithm so that everybody can see and hear about what we're talking about, because I think it's that important, especially in this one. It is. It is. Everybody around the world has been following this case. That's pretty wild, guys, if you think about it. Yeah, same here. SRB, or at least sorry. I just had a little roll of thunder in the background too. By the way, if anybody was trying to become a member and you have an iPhone and you struggle with it, that is the other link there for it. And again, as always, guys, make sure to drop down the bottom down there. And there's a little $sign in a square box. Click into that and make sure that you're open to receive gifts, because a lot of times we have people that gift memberships in here. That being said, you can't receive the memberships because they get spread out at random if you do not have that opened up to receive gifting. So just so everybody's available and has the option to get those memberships, I would love to see that. So go ahead and make sure that's available to you. Welcome, Groot. Great to see you today. So I'm going to start this off while we're still waiting for a little bit with a poll. I've run this 4 times now, I think. And I'm curious to see what the outcome of this is now that certain things have dropped and changed. Welcome, Texas Ranger. Good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. It is Friday, guys, by the way. It's April 25th already. This month flew by. For those you haven't seen in a little while, I hope you've all had a great Easter. Oh, wow, Cap. Sorry to hear that, brother. Be safe. It's wonderful to see you too, Miss Paula. I'll be breathing all that in, Cap. That's dangerous stuff. Messed me up. So this first poll I'm dropping is it's just a basic 1 and up. Is Brian Koberger innocent? I'm curious to see what everybody thinks, and you guys be honest. Nobody's going to attack you for what you feel. In fact, I'd like to see differing opinions. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that poll and see what we get out of that. Just a yes and no. Julianne, thank God it's Friday. Yes, good to see you. Texas Stranger, it's been a while. Wonderful to see you as well. Thank you for joining us in here. Let's see. Oh, Miss Bonnie just dropped a membership already. Well, thank you so much, Bonnie. That's so generous of you, dear. And it looks like Miss Julianne received it. Congratulations, Miss Julianne. Welcome to the sauce. Great to have you in the sauce with us. Welcome to the club. And Bonnie, again, that was so generous and so awesome. Thank you so much, dear. We appreciate you so very much for that. Welcome, Miss Julianne. Congrats. 1 new meatball. You need to have unsure option. Oh, you're probably right. That's a good point. I always mess that up. Here, let me change that up. I always screw that up, guys. So let's do that again. Thank you, Miss Bonnie, for catching that and calling me out on that. I always forget to throw that third option in. There we go. That's better. Let's restart that. There we go. Unsure. I just put it in as unsure. There you go, guys. Sorry about that. Wasn't even thinking. See, there we go. That's why you're on the team, Miss Bonnie, to help us, to help me make things right. Couldn't do without these guys. Boom, SRB just dropped 5 memberships. That's awesome. Thank you, SRB. Thank you so much for that. And it looks like Texas Ranger received one. Miss Leah Story and Nina B, CC Ice, and Cat Lover. Congrats and welcome to the sauce, you guys. And thank you again, SRB. That's so amazing of you. And very generous. God bless. I appreciate that so much. And welcome, Red Riding Hood. Good to see you as well. Congrats, you guys, and welcome. Great to have you here. Very, very awesome, SRB. God bless. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Welcome, welcome, guys. I like the green too. I like the green. Nice color. That's awesome. 6 new meatballs in not even 5 minutes. That's amazing. Guys are awesome. 99 peeps in the house. 54 likes. We're getting there. Angel with an A. Nothing solid enough for me at this stage to prove guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Though G seems to allegedly know not despite a gag order. Very true. Very true. Texas Rangers says even though there's also it's all circumstantial, there's too much of it. I respect that. Thank you, Miss Kaylee. Welcome, Simply Solo, Ian's all. Good to see you. I respect that, Texas Ranger. Absolutely. I don't see it. I just don't see it. My opinion, I don't see it, but everybody's opinion counts, guys. If we all thought the same way, that would be quite a boring world. Oh, sort of day. I was outside doing yard stuff, and wintertime will break you down, guys. Officials in the house. Good to see you, official. Thank you for joining us today. Moment Baby, great to see you as well. Thank you for joining us today. And guys, if anybody's interested in any of our merch here, while we're waiting, Miss Wisdom just dropped a link for that, guys. If you want to jump into one of these awesome here t-shirts, you're more than welcome to get one. Hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, candles, all sorts of stuff. You can get it right through that link there. That is so awesome. Thank you, Miss Wisdom. Alicia just dropped a gifted a membership as well that went out to Elizabeth. Congratulations, Elizabeth. Thank you again, Miss Alicia. So generous. God bless. And Anina V dropped one, and that one went to Miss Christy Nevada. Congrats to both of you, and welcome to the sauce. 8 new meatballs in the sauce, guys, and thank you guys so much for that. That's amazing. So generous, guys. Babs, welcome. Yes, there was some gifted a few days ago. I can't remember who did it, but congrats and welcome. It's great to have you in the sauce with us, Babs. Appreciate you very much. Walking Yin, thank you for joining us today. Good to see you. And guys, please, if you haven't done it, please take a second just to hit that like button. What's up, Willard? Good to see you, Willie. Get in the house. Truth Nation Uncensored. Great to have you here, bro. Hope you're having a good day so far. We got some more. We got some more docs to look at and talk about, and some other things that, well, hell, we reviewed a document yesterday that really kind of changed a lot of people's outlook on some things that we were told that doesn't seem to be the same. So we shall see what happens from there. Yes, thank you all so much for those memberships. I appreciate that so very much. Excuse me. Like Brandy said, if anybody would like to jump into the Discord with us, you can do that and be able to chat with everybody when we're not live. Just get a hold of Miss Brandy here. You can email her, and she'll bring you in if you're not in there. Ooh, it is thunder now here. Boys, if I disappear, you guys, you know why. Just heads up right out of the gate. Great to see you, official. Angel said there is a stench of corruption, though, and I'm mostly worried about the PK is innocent and actual perpetrators are getting away with murder. I think a lot of people feel that way, Angel, and we're seeing a lot of strange things with this. I'll say that. Miss Eve Lucky, welcome back. Good to see you today. Thank you, Alicia. There's the link and the information to email Miss Brandy if you want to join us in the Discord. You're more than welcome to. That's how you do it. Thank you, Alicia. And like I said, guys, I got docs to look at. There's a link pinned in the top of the chat. I always like to open this up for us to do an open discussion on what we see and hear about this. That way we can voice our feelings and opinions and kind of break down what we think about this. So that is awesome as well. Come on in, everybody. Thank you so much. Anina just dropped a super sticker of 5. I don't know what that is. Is that pounds? I can't even see it, you guys. $5. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Anina. So very generous, and God bless. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Thank you so very much for that. All right. Yes, we appreciate your support in any aspect, guys. Listen, everybody being here, it's so much to me. It means so much to all of us here in the cafe. Euros. Thank you. I'm trying to think. I don't know why. Thank you. I think that's what that is. It's euros. Thank you so much. And we don't expect anybody to support us via, those ways, but anybody that is supporting the channel with super stickers and super chats, the PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, dropping memberships, all of that, guys, we don't expect you to do that to be here, but we do definitely appreciate it. It keeps the channel moving and keeps us here every day. So please know that we appreciate so very much everybody that does that. It's never ever expected, though, guys. The truth don't change. I am good to see you. And the States version has changed so many times. It's changed, and they've kind of turned it inside out. I got to be honest with you guys. It's nothing like what I thought this was going to be. And I've always been I was on the fence from the beginning with this because I didn't see enough evidence proving that Brian did this. It's not gotten better. It's gotten worse. Okay. I'm seeing less and less and less of possible proof that Brian could have done this. And it just bugs me. Red Riding. Some of you guys seen the last episode that Mr. Ray did on their page, Socialite Crime Club? If not, please do and let me know what you think. It was uploaded 5 months, nothing sent. You're talking about Psy? Okay. Socialite Crime Club. Let's see here. I haven't seen that. Thank you for the insight there, Red Riding Hood. Baffling us all with one big tangle. It is, Angel. It is. Big one. Hitler's introducing entirely new narrative that then it is. I mean, it's changed yesterday with the document we went over where they're talking about 4 of the victims were sitting at 2 a.m. in Kaylee's room just talking. Ethan and Xana were not home by 2 a.m. at that point yet. Still, this is changing things, for us to be looking at this going, okay, where were they? Why didn't we know about this before? So welcome, Barbara. Okay, Barbara says that the Social Crime Club took a break due to him busy with trials. It makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you. Hey, Joey, good to see you. Ranger says it looks like one of his own family members will have to testify on him receiving that knife. Well, I don't know, though, because they're stating from what I saw in the hearing, Ranger, they're not going to be testifying. Is that going to change? I don't know, but I don't know that they will be. And if that's the case, that'll say, hey, we'll see what happens. I don't think they're going to. The defense came up and said that's not a plan. So, and I think the same prosecution said the same. I may be wrong, guys. Don't quote me on that, but Welcome, Miss Tara. I got you there. We'll see. We'll see. It is a family account. It is a family account, and if it was purchased, I would love to see a receipt for it. That's for sure. Welcome, Eddie. Thank you for joining us today, buddy.
Thank you for having me.
Always, always. No thanks needed. You know your door's always open to you as much as you live here, my friend. So always welcome.
Hey, before we dive into the new document, do you want to take a moment and put up another poll?
Yeah, I can run that one. Hold on, let's see. Give me a second here. This one's probably about done. Anyway, hold on here. Let's see if it'll let me do it here. I think I gotta close this one out. Hold on. I can run it again. 59% think Brian is innocent. 28% think that they're not sure, and 12% said no. So maybe we'll run another one later. But what's your poll, Eddie?
Have the poll be with two options: scared, SCARED, or screwed, misspelled with a capital R and without an E. So SC capital R WD.
Okay, hold on.
So what they're going to vote for, obviously, is
What did she say?
what was her intent? Yeah, what did she intend to mean or to say?
Gotcha. This poll will let me do this. Hold on.
What's the passcode?
All right, hold on. Okay, I think it'll work this way. So basically, it's set up. It says, "What did DM mean? Scared? Yes or no? Or screwed?" As the other option. It states. Hopefully, it works. Welcome, Gen 7.
That didn't work.
All right, let's see how it should be working now. Good to go. All right.
Yeah, that serves the purpose. It'll work.
I was wrong. There were 6.
Hold on, you guys. That's the only way to let me set it up, but hopefully it does. Give me 1 sec. All right. 112 peeps in the house, 66 likes. We're catching up. Dylan Mortensen is DM, guys. Just so you know, I'm sorry I should have put that in their full name, but Dylan Mortensen is DM. And go ahead, Ed.
So the reason I jumped on the panel so quick is Tonka had a good comment about how Hippler is introducing entirely new narrative.
Right, exactly.
And before we get into the new documents, we'll just do a little review. Most of us probably have been through the document we went through yesterday together as a group. That is the order for the text messages and 911 call. I believe we go to page 8. Yeah, so towards the bottom of page 8, it reads, she also states what she is immediately feeling. Example, confused, freaked out, and scared. Footnote 7. Should I pause while you grab the phone?
Nope, you're
Okay.
good.
Okay, so going to footnote 7, it reads, her text states she was, quote, and I'll spell it, SCRWD, unquote. Considering that the A is right next to the caps lock key and E is right next to the W key, it is evident she was likely texting quickly and accidentally mistyped scared.
Mhm.
That's a lot of words and a
It
lot of
is.
assumptions.
It
So,
is, and
what is the truth? Unequivocally, you can go ahead and guarantee that she said screwed, because that's what it reads, number one. Number two is that you're trying to be misled to think otherwise. What does the poll say?
we're at 48% on that right now. We'll see here. Give me just a few more minutes. Welcome, Jesse. Thanks for joining us, bud.
Well,
My pleasure.
I probably influenced it by now. But
no, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, everybody still has their own mind, buddy. You know that.
Yeah, that's true. So,
add to that what Eddie said. There was a statement put out on Facebook in the Goncalves family group that Olivia stated that she spoke with her at some point and that it was supposed to mean scared. Leave it to your interpretation. Like Eddie said, you figure it out.
so as you know, I kind of, how do I say it? I'm not of the opinion that like Diem has anything to do with this. And if she does have some type of indirect involvement in this, who knows what it could be.
Mm-hmm.
I always use like she opened the door, whatever.
Sure.
As opposed to like she's the mastermind or she wielded the knife, right?
I don't think anybody has that thought, but
right.
Maybe.
So,
who knows?
Let's say that she knows something. I mean, it's evident in these texts that she knows something. She does. There's no getting around that. But what the state is trying to do is trying to get around it and give it a whole different
turn.
Yeah, good.
Well, and then, you know what, to go with that, dude, think about something. She knows something that she said, in my opinion, had to have said to Hunter. For Hunter to go running up those stairs and head right into the kitchen and grab a kitchen knife for a defense weapon, what are you defending yourself against? Why do you need to defend yourself against somebody that's passed out drunk?
I think it's something big that they all know. Every
There's
kid in that neighborhood knows.
About, right?
Like the biggest, baddest gangster in town, the one guy that you don't screw with. Something that young kids in their 20s would be really. I don't know about your guys' upbringing, but if I put myself back at 20 years old, at the same age as them, and you're talking about like a gangster, a mafia member or somebody, kids have so much respect for that. They would never dare let the cat out of the bag. They would keep that secret to the grave. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in person. I've seen crimes happen in my own community where every kid my age knew exactly what happened. The adults didn't know, and everybody just keeps it quiet.
You don't mess with that. You don't mess with that situation. I grew up around that kind of stuff, 100%. So yeah, I get absolutely what you're saying. Where did you? I know where you're at now.
Their behavior suggests that they're all participating in this. Like you said, for Hunter to be running upstairs to get that knife, he's aware of something, and he's been told something, and he's not. It doesn't sound like he's unsure of it sounds like he's participating in something that he's aware of. The fact that the Emily on the phone that said, "Oh, by the way, there was somebody in the house at 4 a.m." That's participating in the cover up. This idea that these other people are just naive and innocent bystanders is starting to fall apart because they appear to be colluding, and it certainly appears that the idea that this was all just a mistake seems to be fading pretty quick.
Big time. And the prosecution is the prosecution is dissolving slowly. Okay, little by little, it's falling apart, you guys. And hearing
But the thing is, though, dude, Hitler's doing everything in his power to make sure Brian's convicted.
well, I mean,
So, there's a dark force that, is kind of looming over everything, that he's not going to make it go the way that everybody would love it to go, that where actual true justice happens. We're going to see all this, little of that, and it's not going to be good, man.
the thing is that can only go so far, Willie, before somebody sees something and says, "Wait a minute."
But how far did it go in Delphi, dude?
Well, I know. I knew that was my next statement, actually.
Hey, Dave, I'm going to quick finish my thought here and put it all together.
Go ahead.
So we can move. Okay, so we're talking about scared or screwed and what the order in Hitler's write-up says. And then we're talking about Dylan and how it's evident she knows something. Keep in mind, police and the investigators and the prosecution, the state, they know everything. There's nothing that they do not know in this case. Dylan wrote screwed. There is no doubt. Do not think otherwise.
Thank you.
I've kind of, after the panel last night, I kind of bounced around, and I even heard people, that a lot of people follow and respect their opinion of, and they immediately just blindly believe and go along with scared. Because, in their mind, they get this picture of what happened that night, and there's a masked dude, and then, of course, she's scared, therefore. But she said screwed. The police know everything in this case. They know what Dylan knows. And she probably thought in her mind that she was screwed for whatever reason. The cops know this. So imagine this. Like, it seems like you're in a bit of a bind here. You're in trouble. And it looks like maybe you can use a little bit of help. And we can use a little bit of help too.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what we need from you. And here's what you can do for us. Right?
Gotcha.
So when we're talking about her statement, her many statements that she's been interviewed, it's clear that she's being used. And, I always kind of said that she's untouchable. And now when you put that together with that kind of makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's being thrown under the bus in a large degree, in a large sense, and she's being involved by force.
Pawns. Like I said, they're pawns, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. Your takeaway is just know that she type screwed, and the state wants you to think otherwise. So whatever you do with that, it's up to you, but it's pretty clear what it all means.
So the poll came out, 47% think it's screwed, 41% think it's scared, and 10% said no.
Did you post it?
Yeah, it's in the chat, yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, it's hard with these polls to make them specific, but that's the way it reads. So
it looks like the misinformation campaign is working well.
Yeah, and it turns out that Brian was also dual wielding weapons too now, so it got even juicier.
Yeah, well, listen, I've seen there was a statement made about the girls being victims and survivors and so forth, and I do agree with that partially. I think that they're victims of the circumstance of the crime. As far as survivors, I don't think they were ever in danger of having to be survivors in the crime. That's my opinion only, of course.
Yeah.
And I respect what you're saying.
And then Zan and Ethan are attacked at the same exact time, bro.
Well, here's the thing, though. After last night, I have so many. Every time something new drops, we have more questions. Okay.
I'm just going by the document here. What
Yeah,
it's
that's what I mean. The new document that dropped 2 a.m. There are 4 of them are up there talking, and Dan and Ethan aren't even home yet. And this is at 2 a.m. There's never a time given for them to come home at that point. We don't even know what time they came home based on what Hitler put out on his document. When did they come home? We don't know. What did something
how many?
follow
Well,
them?
let me ask you this: how many times before that do you think that Xana was absolutely obliterated, drunk to a point where she's in the hallway staring at the, however she described seeing
laying,
Xana?
laying on her floor in her
Never.
bedroom with their head to the wall.
Never.
Guys, there was a party there the night before. How many body cam videos did we see of parties going on at the house there before? I mean,
Yeah.
this was the house. This was the
Well,
party.
let's calculate how much Dylan had to drink, right?
Yeah.
Right.
With the Borg and the tequila shots and the drinking
Sure.
game.
Sure.
But she's
Everything
still,
Dylan
but she's still
drank.
with it enough to do all this, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
they got
and how much would have Xana had to have drank to be passed out if that's
Exactly.
what Dylan drank?
right.
Yep.
I'm assuming we all saw the Steve G interview.
Yeah, we're gonna review that too here after.
But who drove Xana home?
Don't know.
Or did they walk home?
I don't know. That's what I mean. Because who was the last one to see Ethan and Xana? Because say they got a ride home from, I don't know, an Uber or something like that. I'd ask that Uber, how was Xana in the Uber? Was she obliterated drunk? Did she seem normal? Because there's no way from what you said. You just said 2 o'clock. They got from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. She's
We don't
getting
even
so
know.
obliterated to where she's in the hallway. So did she come home like that? I guess is my question.
Yeah, did she?
What
walk
happened to
there?
the story about going home and eating pizza?
That's thank you. That's the point I'm trying to make, right.
I don't know anymore, man.
Well, and that's what we were told in the very first week, maybe second week, that Jeff spoke to Xana over the phone, and that Xana told him that they were home safe and sound, that they were eating pizza, watching a movie. Well, that's out the door now. Okay.
Wait, you want a brain teaser? I went to bed thinking about that, and
Right.
it dawned on me. Here, this will trouble your mind if you think about it like this. So I went to bed thinking, Jeff lied to us, and then it could be, well, or did Xana lie to him?
And that's where I'm at with it, Eddie. Thank you.
Or is there a lie in this order, and Jeff and Xana had never lied, and that is the truth?
You're muted, Dago. As
Sorry.
somebody who has kids that age, yeah, your kids can lie to you, but you can also, when it comes to being drunk and whether you're going home or not, most of us can sniff that out, right?
Yeah.
Jeff verified in an interview that they did speak, and that she said that to him. But as a parent that has had 6, 7 children, and 2 of them are girls, 5 of them are boys. They've all been teenagers. They've all been 19, 20, 21 years old. If your father calls, I've asked my daughters this question. If I called you and I'm worried about you, are you going to tell me the truth? Or are you going to tell me what you think is I want to hear to calm me down?
Yeah.
Think about that. So that's something that possibly could have happened at that point, because it was also claimed, I think within that interview, it was stated also that he was told that there was a disagreement or a fight that happened that night. And are you okay? Because he made a statement about going there. He was going to drive there, and Jasmine said, "No, Dad, let it go. You've been drinking too much," or something like that. So he stayed home because she assured him she was okay. They were home eating pizza, so on and so forth. That's not true at this point. So that's my thought, that she was just trying to subside him to keep him calm and not worry about her at the point that they thought maybe nothing else was wrong. So where were they at that point in time when that conversation happened? And she said that. So there's the issue. Okay.
I don't want to get too technical, but you said Jeff verified it. No, he didn't verify it. He said it. And therefore, when we hear it, that is hearsay, right?
Well, he said it in the interview. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right. Now, who knows if that's trustworthy? We can't use it as a fact. It wouldn't hold up in a courtroom. You'd need to prove it in, tangible ways. But think of this. Think of what is in this order, and it says the time, right? That they didn't get home until 2 or something to that effect, right? Where does that information come from? How would the
That-
judge
that-
know that? Because he would have to rely on hearsay to write that himself.
I believe his whole statement was based off of the grand jury testimonies. And that's where he comes and basically did something you don't see a judge doing and they're not supposed to do, is gave his opinion, basically.
Oh,
That's an opinion. That's right.
Yeah.
Because
Thank you.
that would have come from the surviving witnesses, that information.
He's opining on things that he's not qualified to opine on. And
Exactly.
if somebody else was opining without the proper qualifications in his courtroom, he wouldn't allow it. Yet he's
Yeah.
allowing himself to opine on things like DNA, which he's not qualified to opine on. He seems to be reading off the PCA, he's reading the state. It's almost like he's trying the case for
Yeah.
the state.
Judge
That's-
hypocrite.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Unreal.
Anyway, thanks for entertaining me. Going back to that document, we can, when you're ready, Dago, move forward to the document for today.
Yeah. That beforehand, because Jesse popped up here, was there anything you wanted to approach Jesse before we go into anything new that was from yesterday or anything
I
else?
mean, I had some opinions. I didn't see the entire interview with Steve G. I had some opinions on that. But if you're going to play it and you want to wait to comment on that,
Well, we can go into that. We can do that first, and we can discuss that if you guys want to,
Yeah, I watched it a little bit. I turned that off though.
and move into this.
Yeah, I didn't
document.
watch the entire thing, but I caught some things there that, there was certainly information there to be had. I thought there's some, he did mention. I mean, I kind of got a little bit emotional when he said that he punched my daughter in the face.
Right.
And it's hard to hear him say that and not want retribution for that. You know what I mean? Like,
Of course.
as much as I think Steve G might be wrong, I empathize with him. And when you hear him talk about somebody punching his daughter in the face, you sure feel like you want him to have his justice. You want whoever did that needs to pay for that. And of course, he's going to want to pin that on somebody, and he's pinning it on Brian. But also, it doesn't really fit with the timeline, does it? Punching somebody in the face takes more time. Punching somebody in the face
Leave DNA.
when you're a skinny guy with some health issues is going to leave damage on your hands, which we don't have any confirmation that Brian's hands were ever damaged.
There you go.
What I want to know is, if you weren't standing there that night, how do you know that? How does anybody that wasn't there that night know that?
I guess he's basing it on what my butt told him.
What is it? A punch?
Yeah, but a punch and a stomp, couldn't those look the same?
Yeah, it could be the butt of a gun. It could be the butt of a blade, the butt of a knife.
That's my point. That's what I'm
Exactly.
saying. I mean, I mean this with all due respect when I say this, but there's a lot of things that have been stated, and this is why I said in the very beginning, I don't want anything to come across as a disrespectful statement towards Steve or any other family members or the victims. We don't do that. But I got to question certain information that's been put out about how is it good to do this, and what is the repercussions from doing these things? If these, how do we know these are facts? Okay, I don't know. I don't think Jesse knows, or Eddie or Willie, that these are facts because we weren't there. So you can be told these things, like Eddie was saying, it's hearsay.
Well, Hunter
One
went
more
over there
thing
and
I
knocked,
noticed
well,
about
Hunter went
Steve
over and
is-
knocked the door down because Ethan's body was slumped against the door. That's what we were told by that man right there with the hat
In the
on.
beginning, yeah. And then all of a sudden now the door's wide open because Dylan runs past and glances over and sees her laying head to the wall, feet to the door.
Yeah.
How? At the
So
door?
anything
I
he said,
didn't hear them address that in
Yeah.
this interview. Does anybody know if they addressed that?
I don't think so. But
probably not.
It didn't sound like they were going to. But one thing I did notice is it sounded very much to me like the law enforcement is using reverse psychology on Steve, the way you would a child, patting him on the
Mhm.
back. He mentioned that him and his investigative team with Shannon Gray and the private investigators kept on uncovering things, and law enforcement was, oh, wow, guys, how did you guys figure this out? Oh, my God, you guys are so good. And he was just eating it up. And law enforcement never, ever gives people credit for doing their job for them if that's what's actually happening, right? Law enforcement would go hell and high water to try and pretend like you had nothing to do with it. They're the only ones capable of solving crimes. They're not gonna give you your tea leaves for doing their job for them unless they're doing it with with intention. So I think they were leading him on, patting him on the back. You're man, you're good at this. Keep on digging. You're on the right track because because it's leading him away from what actually happened.
I
Exactly.
agree. That's what I agree with too, because they know that Steve has claimed to be the alpha in the very beginning interviews, and he's very involved, and he's talking about things. He wants answers to this, and at the same time, as law enforcement, I can't see them giving him true and real information to this, worried that he may come out with it because of his angst towards the situation and the fact that he lost his child. He's very angry about that. He should be. He's been talking from the beginning. I don't see law enforcement giving him pertinent information in this, is what I'm saying. So real quick, Fox, thank you for the email. You didn't link it right, my friend. It's not attached. It was just the wording for the link. Nothing opens up in the link. So if you want to resend it, I'd appreciate that very much. Welcome Critical Minds, Musical Contessa, Aurora, Gen 7, Phil, Sweet and Salty, Demon Dog, Meg P, let me see, KP, what it do? Good to see you. Doc, all of you guys, thank you, Miss Tara, everybody, thanks so much for joining us today. So what I'm going to do is I want to review this interview with Daniel. And again, guys, please be respectful, if you will. I appreciate everybody has the rights to their opinions. Just be respectful. That's all I ask. To both Daniel and Mr. Goncalves. Welcome, Miss Sherry. Good to see you as well. Like I said, I try to respect all creators, whether I agree or disagree. They put the time to work in to do these things, so I have to respect that. And I appreciate the fact that we had the interview to be able to review and to discuss at this point. So, all right, let's see what we got going on here.
Pretty good timing, too.
Yeah, right. And thank you again, Willie, Eddie, and Jesse. It's great to have you all here with me today. This is a great panel. I'm very appreciative of all of you. All right, guys, let's see what we got here.
And welcome everybody. Steve Goncalves, father of Kaylee Goncalves. How are you doing, my man? How's it going?
Doing good. It's been a good day. I just got off being on call, so it's nice to get my schedule back. And
Also, anybody here, let me ask you real quick. If you can't hear something, let me know. If you need me to back up, you want to rehear something, just tell me, and we can work right through that. No problem.
it's a good day, and almost summer here in North Idaho. Weather's looking nice, so it's nice. It's nice, and I've got good news today, so it's a good day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's it sounds good. It's out here in Texas. It's getting warm, and so I can imagine it's I guess a little bit cooler up there up in northern Idaho. You mentioned some good news today. I'm not sure how much you can go into, but more or less, what kind of news would that be?
We got some word that there was some paperwork that came out. I believe there were subpoenas, but don't quote me on that. I don't know exactly what they were, but there's paperwork that came out that asked people to be prepared to go to court. So take that as a sign that Hitler's tight schedule is something he put together, and it looks like it's gonna happen. I'm kind of reading between the lines a little bit, but I can't say that that's a bad sign. So I'm glad that it's another thing that made this day a pretty good day.
Yes, sir. I've been more excited. It's wrong. I've been liking what I've seen out of Judge Hitler. Not to say anything bad against Judge John Judge. It's just there's a different attitude, a different confidence, a different way of controlling the court. Have you noticed the difference? And I know you were a little bit against the move to Ada County. Do you feel the same way now?
You can have both things, right? You can be disappointed that the community that was hurt the most isn't the one that's able to see the justice. And I don't want to live in a country or a world where only our biggest societies are the ones that are able to orchestrate justice. You don't want to be in a situation where you have to be in a big city for you to be able to have the facilities and the resources to actually have justice. I think that's a bad message, and I'm still against that. But it is what it is. Idaho County, they didn't have the resources. They couldn't get it done. It was nothing against Hitler, but that courtroom was a fraction of the size of the one we're going to. I mean, it didn't even have an elevator. This one has an elevator of at least, I'm going to say 6 floors. I haven't been on all of them. I typically just go straight to Hippler's, which is on the 5th floor, and I get out there and go straight to his court. So, in the security, all the different things that they have, there's a lot that goes into a case that gets the attention of the nation. So, I was disappointed that we had to move it, but I believed in the leadership of the state of Idaho that they would go out and find somebody who was built for this case, and that's exactly what happened. They went and found somebody who was understood the struggles that we were going through, and we got a leader that could go in there and clarify and understood the law, could figure it out on the fly, and you see that all the time. I mean, even presents logical arguments that I've been hoping somebody would, which just speeds the whole processes up. Otherwise, you send everyone home, then they build the arguments, and then they come back and they say something that could have been spoken right then and there. So I'm definitely happy with Hippler, and I think he's more than fair. And things are moving. Things are moving. It felt like we went 2 years without anything happening. So I'm glad to be in a situation where this isn't every day of my life. Hopefully we don't go past 3 years, and we get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, I agree 100%. One of the things that I've really thought that has made a big difference in this case is the transparency that's also been possessed through this case and now through Judge Hippler. And how do you feel about the transparency, the information that is now going through? I mean, this is a lot of information. We've had 911 calls, we've had text messages, we've had a lot of things that have come out recently that were sealed. As a family member of a victim, how do you see that information coming out, and how does it make you feel?
I'm not a fan of gag orders. When we first got one on us, we did a little research on them. We found out like the origins of them that we found in the United States went back to the 1800s, and they were used to basically silence the legal representation of unions. So when they started hiring lawyers with their fees and started to be able to have a lawyer tell them, hey, these mines that we're going into aren't safe. The whole bird, canary in the gold mine. Mm-hmm. That goes back to these guys. They would go down there, and when the bird died, they ran. That was their safety. So they hired lawyers, and then these lawyers started. TV wasn't a thing. They went to the local newspaper and started saying and describing the conditions. And one of the legals of the time said, you need to shut him up. You got to shut those lawyers up. So they made a gag order. So they're not really, I'm not a fan of them. I don't like them at all. I think the truth coming from the court, the facts as they are, you're still going to have jury members that decide what those ultimate facts are, but hiding information in the sake of thinking that you can control the narrative. I don't, maybe when you had 3 news channels back in the day, when I was a kid, you had like ABC, CBS, and NBC, and that was it. But those days are gone. I mean, you got these people that think he's innocent, and you got these people that think he's guilty, and there's every view in between. So you're not going to hear just one narrative. You're not going to hear 3 stations saying
Willie had a phone call. He said he'd be right back, guys.
That he's guilty, and that was just one reason of a gag order, where they basically said that this individual couldn't get a fair trial. But like I said, the gag order goes back to suppressing a lot of truth, and I don't want to live in a country where we have to hide the truth as we know it, the facts that are found in an investigation. We have somebody who's been in jail for 3.5 years. You should have a lot of evidence, and society should agree that evidence is sound enough that we can keep these people off the streets. Otherwise, you release them on bail. So I think our case, a lot of people try to say he's innocent until proven guilty. That's true. That's true in the most generic way. But we do have a grand jury, and that grand jury did an indictment, and that indictment basically pulled him off the streets. So I remind people, I remind my children that we don't have like an innocent person in jail, that there is no evidence. We actually do have somebody in jail with a bunch of evidence, and if he doesn't have answers for that evidence, I believe the case is over.
Yeah, no, there's actually quite a bit of evidence against him that we know about. I'm sure there's even more we don't. You know, I think a lot of people look at the probable cause affidavit and say, hey, well, this has a lot of the information in it. And at the time, it probably did, but not so much anymore. I mean, the PCA was developed in probably 9 days from the moment that they, got his name to the moment that they put him in handcuffs. And so a lot more time has gone since then. And, well, let's kind of get back into it. Let's go to the beginning. A lot of people struggle with that night. Why that night? And a lot of folks have struggled with, if this was a guy that was trying to commit the perfect crime, he would have noticed a new vehicle that was Kaylee's. Maybe he didn't know who it was. She had not been there for a while. A lot of people speculate that she'd moved out and there was nothing there anymore. Is that the case when it comes to what she was still living there or not?
She was spending way more time at our house. So depending on who this person was after, he may have chosen the date because that she was there, because the previous 2 weeks she had been at our home and had been taking care of stuff. People that don't know the area, that community I think gets around 90,000 when it's full in term between WSU and UI, but when they're out, it drops down to like 20,000 people. So what that means is if you're a local and you're one of these kids being a barista or working on tips, the money's gone. It dries up. So they all get out of town once school's out. So, she was up here, hustling, she can go back to her barista job. I know other kids, my son, Jack, they come up here and as long as you don't burn your employer, you give them a call and you can pick up a shift at any drop of a hat. And we don't have the seasonal flows out like they do, so they could come up here and make good money. So I don't think she was there that much. And he had stalked that place out 23 times at least that we know of. We know he'd done more than that. There's some surveillance that shows that some of the days that he was there, he didn't have his phone on. The people got hung up, and even myself, over the stalking. The stalking in Idaho is defined as a certain profile. He was definitely stalking, surveilling, whatever whatever definition you want. That he didn't have reasons to be in that location within 100 yards, and I can guarantee you they've checked his bank records and seen if he was actually shopping like some people are just naive and stupid. They want to be stupid. They want to believe myths and fairy tales and be lied to. I don't have any time for those type of people. So we nailed down all these type of things. When we talk with the prosecution, we're just like, let's make sure that we've checked bank records. Let's make sure that we can define everything that this individual is doing when he was making these trips. And, when you're talking about 23 trips, can a person make a perfect backstory every single time they're driving out there? Sure, some days you can go to Winco and pick up a 6-pack and some potato chips or milk or whatever. But it takes true discipline to do it every single time. And I know mistakes were made. And people think, he was smart and he, it doesn't matter. The days of making a perfect crime, they're over. You can't do it. There's just too many sensors. I mean, every camera is a sensor. Every car on the road, every single year we get, there's more and more cars with cameras. You see all these morons that are, keying Teslas. What kind of idiot doesn't realize Teslas have cameras on 24/7? That they don't even need the car to be turned on. Yeah. So when you see stuff like that, that your days of making a crime and not being seen, they're over. And thank God for that, because maybe people can just get over it and treat each other good and stop trying to cut out corners and trying to, it's very rare that you get some individual who thinks he's visions of grandeur so much that they think that they can decide when people live and die. I mean, that's that's a psychopath. That's somebody who's, or it's just got a death wish. And he wants to go out and be famous off of what his actions are rather than who he is. So I think you had that place, stacked out, and I wouldn't be surprised if he seen something that night that made him decide that he had to do it. He had to build up, and I think there was multiple times he went there and he thought it was going to be the night, and he got frustrated because there was a party or there were some people there, and he wasn't allowed to do it. So he made a rash decision. He rushed himself and he went and did it, and like I said, he's not as smart as he thinks he is. None of us are as smart as we think we are. If we think we can get away with it, and a whole community is not going to be able to figure out that we're involved.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned the 20.
Just want to reiterate something real quick there, guys, that has been proven more than once. There was no stalking. Okay. That was stated clearly by the prosecution. Bill Thompson himself stated there was no stalking. So I'm just going to put that out there.
23 times that he was around that place. In the documents, it verifies or clarifies that on these occasions, these 23 times, that he was within 100 meters, and it was between the hours of 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. Not when majority of your shopping is done and there's not a store within 100 meters of the victim's residence. You also mentioned that maybe perhaps he was out there with his phone off. The documents only bring up to November 17th. I don't know if you know or not, but I think that if Kaylee was maybe perhaps the subject of the target there, maybe there'd be some sort of correspondence there with the times that he was in the area with his phone off, but the nights that he went with his phone off was also the times that Kaylee may have been in town. If those days correspond together, then that might be something that really points in that direction. Back early on, you'd mentioned that injuries didn't match. A lot of people have speculated what you meant by that, including myself. I still don't know the answer. Would you mind explaining what you meant by that?
I'm careful with it because throughout this whole investigation, there was things that we found on our own, and there was things that they shared with us, and that was one of the things that we kind of found out on our own.
Exactly, Jesse.
So I did share a little bit, and usually when I do share things, it's things that I didn't give my word that I wouldn't share it. It's hard to describe. I don't want to go too far down, but I like how I said there. We talked to Mabbit, and she basically said that they were in the bed together. They had passed away, but she's seen markings and damages, so that made her suspect that that there was more to what had happened to them in that bedroom. So, I mean, I'll say he struck my daughter. I'll give that out. He punched her, and so for all those people who think he's a great guy, now he punched my daughter right in the face. So yeah, he's got some shit coming to him. We're coming for him. That's one thing that was a little bit different. There's more to it, but I'm gonna have to sit down with make sure that I don't say something that is gonna play into the case and tie anybody's hands.
Understood. Yeah, we definitely don't want to, I don't mean any disrespect either by the question, and I hope it's not too much. I've never wanted to ask yourself or anybody anything about the injuries or the severity. My thoughts had always been that obviously there would have to be a first person that he'd attack, and he'd probably have more of a surprise, and then a second person that he might have to have a little bit more quickly. But it sounds like it could be even more than that. Which is the whole thing is sad, and I apologize, and I'm sorry for your loss. And so, you mentioned that law enforcement, they were open with you in the beginning, and then at a certain point they stopped. Was there ever a time when they may have told you that they believed that the person who committed this crime was outside of her circle, a stranger, so to speak?
Yeah. Very early on, they talked about they being the FBI. So we have an FBI satellite in the location right here in Coeur d'Alene. So we went down there, and they
Based on what he just stated about her being struck in the face, I have something I want to show you guys after we get through this video and ask your opinions on.
laid out a profile for us. Said we wouldn't be surprised if this individual picked this community on purpose, because I guess they knew by the crime scene that this was a planned out event.
Welcome,
It
Raquel.
wasn't. They would know how something would look like if it's, like a domestic violence type thing. It's going to look different than a crime where somebody sneaks in, gets to the people, kills them, and then gets out and doesn't leave a bunch of evidence, a bunch of blood trails out, and all that type of stuff. So early on, they said that they think that this individual picked this community, they wouldn't be surprised if he was on hugging the border of Washington. He was on the Washington side. There was I think a Lewis and Clark murder case that was 5 victims, and they never figured out who it was. So if this person was studying law, they may have known that this community had already had a serial killer come into their area, and then they got away with it. So that, and if this person wanted to go to a college and go get, education, then, he had 2 colleges to pick from. And he was also going to an area that didn't have a history of always catching their serial killer. So I think they identified that 100%. And they went down some scenarios of like what this person would probably behave like, what they would do, what their profile was. And the thing is, between the FBI, the state police, and my own investigation and investigator, and just having a presence online with all these kids that could reach out to us and talk to us, we found out a lot of information pretty early on. And I think maybe law enforcement was scared to have.
That right there in itself is a problem for me. Hold on, replay that. I'm going to play that back real quick for you guys to hear.
All that type of stuff. So early on, they said that they think that this individual picked this community, they wouldn't be surprised if he was on hugging the border of Washington. He was on the Washington side. There was I think a Lewis and Clark murder case that was 5 victims, and they never figured out who it was. So if this person was studying law, they may have known that this community had already had a serial killer come into their area, and then they got away with it. So that, and if this person wanted to go to a college and go get, education, then, he had 2 colleges to pick from. And he was also going to an area that didn't have a history of always catching their serial killer. So I think they identified that 100%. And they went down some scenarios of like what this person would probably behave like, what they would do, what their profile was. And the thing is, between the FBI, the state police, and my own investigation and investigator, and just having a presence online with all these kids that could reach out to us and talk.
Right there. Okay. Having a presence online with all these kids that can reach out to us. That's not a reliable source. That's just as much as any of us reaching out. And a lot of the information, like you said, Jesse, we know how all that went before 2 years ago. So you're reaching out, or you're having people from kids online reach out to you, and you're taking that information and putting it into what you're stating. That's not a good thing,
Dago,
So-
can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead. Please do.
Okay. Kind of asking it on the behalf of everyone here. If this is like an hour plus long and we do a reaction to it, that probably won't leave any time to get to documents. I'm thinking, I don't know how long you plan to.
What does everybody in the chat want to do? Do you guys want me to continue with this and go through the whole thing, or do you want
Is there
me to
any
get to the document?
special highlights of this? Because everything seems to be kind of somewhere where we could pause and remark. And if we did that, it would just be, say, if it was an hour and a half long, just multiply it by 2 to do a reaction to everything said, or I don't know what your intent was, but just
No, I was only a couple of things I caught that I was going to stop at that bugged me. This was the main thing, but yeah, I can scan through this a lot quicker and move on to
because
the
it
document.
just seems like there's no purpose to this. This is just all speculation. Nothing. This is just they're just having a conversation and theorizing, right?
That's fine. There were certain people that wanted to review it. That's why I brought it in today too. But that's fine. No worries.
No, it's up to you. I mean, this is entirely your. I'm just
no, absolutely. It's about you, what you guys want to do. That's why we're here. But I threw it in here because there were people that said it. So I see a lot of people stating documents. So that's what we're going to move to. So that's fine. At some point, I'm just going to scan through a little bit more of this, and then we'll head on to the documents. I won't be stopping or delaying it, anything like that. So a little bit more, and then like I said, right into the documents.
So far, the only thing I got to remark about is how could he know that someone got punched after all that damage? Because, like if Tom Aspinall or Patty the Batty Pimblett punched somebody, maybe they could break, facial bones, right? So
100%, 100%.
Maybe he had UFC fighters with him, and brought them in to help him out that night.
And also, somebody said something to me. The whole statement that Dylan made about possibly seeing a vacuum cleaner attachment or a vacuum cleaner per se. I gotta wonder, and this is the person that sent this to me. This is a good observation. I gotta say that. Being punched in the face, is that what happened? Or I think it was talked about early on in the case that it was believed. Sorry about this thing. It keeps popping up no matter what I do. I can't get rid of it, so I'm sorry. This thing here is what you call a beanbag gun kit. If you look at this and you were to see somebody walking past you, that could resemble something, maybe a hose to a vacuum or an attachment, maybe, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It's just interesting. And it was stated a long time ago that it was believed that some of the victims may have been shot with these things. Maybe that's what happened, that she was hit in the face with one of these, sadly, and it will cause damage in a bad way. So this is just something else somebody sent to me in a kind of a what do you think type scenario. So just saying, and thank you to the person that dropped that. It's interesting. It could make some sense. And that does do damage, guys. They will bruise you up bad. That's the other, but like SRB just said, she could barely see one eyebrow. Where did she come up with the vacuum? Thank you. It's a good point. So anyway,
and Jesse, this is kind of your idea, and I don't want to shoot down your idea and minimize it. Is there any like key points or highlights that we do need to review of it with a timestamp or anything you wanted to cover?
You're muted, bud. You're still muted, Jesse. Now it's showing that you're muted. And you're still muted. That's weird. Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I was shouting and talking and trying to interrupt you guys, and I felt really self-conscious. Nobody was paying attention to me. It's been like 15 minutes thinking that you guys don't like me anymore. But what I was trying to say was that what Steve just said about law enforcement telling him that they have like a profile of a guy who fits Koberger exactly, to me, I don't believe that law enforcement, they're so good at their job that they had a profile that was so accurate. I believe that it sounds like they had his name well before that they told us they had his name. So, and there is that rumor floating around about the confidential informant. So they had his name, a week later or something. And now they're talking to Steve about, hypothetically a guy who fits exactly the profile of Brian Koberger. If I was Ann Taylor, I would be copying a bunch of things from this interview. I don't know if it's pertinent. The fact that law enforcement is encouraging him to do investigation, the fact that some of the things he's said about his own investigation, it sounds improper to me. I mean, isn't law enforcement supposed to prohibit him from doing any investigation and threaten him?
Yeah, agreed. And I think they know that no matter what they say, he's going to do. So if he's going in the wrong direction, I'm sure they're just going to allow him to do that so that he stays out of their way, per se. You know what I mean? In that sense. But we don't know. I don't know. You would think that they would prohibit him because they don't push for people to do that kind of thing ever. So I think, in fact, if you go backwards a couple years, at some point there was a statement he made in an interview where he claims that they said, "Hey, you're doing a great job, but you're way ahead of us. Why don't you slow down?" You remember that statement he made in that interview? Okay. What's going on here? You know?
I remember him supposed to meet with a guy in a hotel, and then he was received a letter from the FBI or something threatening him to,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
he's going to be in big trouble if he doesn't slow it down.
Exactly. So, you know,
And that guy that he was going to meet in the hotel is potentially connected to this whole informant that would have
sure.
produced Koberger's name well before the state is actually telling us they had his name. And then when he describes this profile of a guy just like Koberger, and at the time he's describing it, it's well before they're supposed to have his name. It's well before he was arrested. It's well before the 19th of December. It sounds to me like it's pointing us in that direction, that which we suspect. We all suspect they've been lying about that. I think, Eddie, have you suspected that they had Koberger's name before they've alluded to?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with these 23 times that he's supposedly in the town of Moscow prior to the crime, it feels like he was either stepping on someone's toes by maybe something he was doing, if he was involved in, I don't know what, work, some type of a work, or I don't know what activity
picking up his recreational stuff that he
it could be that, if he's even into that anymore. I have a hard time believing that, but it's possible. Anything's possible. I won't discount that.
Thank you, Hunter's Moon. I appreciate that so very much. God bless. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then to try to, so what they're doing on this panel is like, so he doesn't have receipts. So if he's shopping, that'd be one thing, but he wasn't shopping. We looked into his they looked into his financials, and he's not always purchasing something on those evenings. So therefore,
he says he's sure they looked into the financials. Again, there's no factual information there. So
right, it would be inconclusive. You can't. That's not the way investigation goes. Oh, he didn't buy anything that night, so that's surveillance.
Right.
And how about when he was there a few times without his phone? Well, why wasn't he there without his phone the night he did it? I mean, if you know what I mean, that would be a great time not to bring your phone, Brian.
Yeah, I picked that one up too.
And how do you know?
He did it that night, right?
And if he was there without his phone, then how are you putting him there? It's not his phone putting him there. So what? You have actual surveillance footage that shows his. But I mean, what does it show? A white Elantra, and we're just going to assume it's his.
Right. You see him getting out of the car, walking into a place, or no? You know what I mean? That's
no. I mean, if they had that would have to be in the docs, right? That would be. We have this video for they can't spring that out with. If it doesn't get put into evidence, they can't bring it into court.
Right.
Yes. I wonder how many miles an hour over he was doing when he got pulled over on August 21st that evening in Moscow.
That would be a great question. If we could look into that stop, I'd love to find that out, to be honest with you.
Like any pretense, it's almost like, you're directed to pull him over. Just find a reason and pull him over, right?
Yeah.
It feels like it. So, to go along with what Jesse was saying, it feels like they knew something about him way before.
I've always thought that too. Yeah.
December 19th. And they're not going to say what it is.
It does seem to the theory that there was a confidential informant who's unreliable, and his he would destroy the case. Is so unreliable that the case would be destroyed if it was revealed that he's the one who gave Koberger's name. That seems to fit a lot of pieces. It seems to fit the story of Steve trying to meet up with this guy in a hotel room and then being threatened by the FBI. It seemed so many things are pointing towards law enforcement having his name before they should have had his name. I mean, that theory, and it's just a theory, but sometimes when a theory makes more sense than the official story, you have to start looking at those theories.
Yeah, and it did turn out to be a seatbelt violation, but that's not the way it started. we learned that it was for speeding. That was the reason, the reason they gave for pulling him over. And then once they pulled him over, they discovered that he didn't have the seatbelt on. And all right, we'll cut you a break here, not give you a speeding ticket. We'll just give you a citation for the seatbelt. Oh, thank you for doing that for me. I appreciate it.
Right. Pucci said that he also states that he saw the Uber car or the rideshare car leave the house from the 11-12 video. Well, and that was something that was stated a long time ago by Olivia, that she had went and found that video, ring cam or whatever, and saw the girls dropped off at 156. The car leaves and then sees the girls come back outside with Murphy. And then whatever, go back inside after the fact. And but that was something she claimed that she saw on video when they went out, they started their own investigation, to go back into what Pucci said there. So I don't know. All right, I'm gonna run through just a little bit more of this here, and then I will jump into the documents, because there are pieces of this that I'm told are really good. So we'll see. I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't get a chance to. Let's see here. But like I said, this is just going to be a few more minutes, and then we'll jump out.
We found out a lot of information pretty early on, and I think maybe law enforcement was scared to have somebody who was that in tune with what was going on. We knew about the chief before it ever came forward. We knew about the white car day one. They were like, they're looking for a white car. We didn't come out and tell anyone that, because we didn't want people flooding us with fake clues. That was one reason why we never even gave out some of the details on Kaylee, because we'd have people that say, oh, I know who did it, and this is how it went down. So then we'd say, well, what happened to Kaylee? And they could never, obviously they couldn't tell us what those details were. So we were doing the same thing that officers do. You keep some exclusive information back, so you can vet people that are trying to be a snitch or an informant, or they're trying to leverage, like, hey, I'm going to tell you this stuff about what this other guy did, so I can get out of jail, or I can things like that. So we went through some of that, and but I think when we were accurate and we had that information, there was definitely, I know individuals looked this up and said, how are you guys coming to this info? How are you guys getting this stuff? And maybe it was just luck, maybe it was determination, and I feel like there was times I worked on this case 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we figured some stuff out, and that can definitely intimidate people, especially for a person who's, I told them right off the beginning, you're not going to gag me. You're not going to silence me. I'm not going to play a part in helping the person who killed my daughter. I'm going to do everything in my path to make sure that I play a role, that this guy is killed and held 100% accountable to the fullest extent of the law, directly because he chose my family.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, 100% incident that made.
Both stuff was investigated by Christy and Olivia, so I wasn't around when they actually got into those things. I seen some of the screen captures, but I'm trying to help people understand how we know for a fact that Jack's not involved. There is the whole cast went into that neighborhood, and people can understand that cast detail is though we didn't get some of the timing records, there's still a lot of information there that they did get, and Jack is one of the people where they did get the timing records, which lets you go within feet. So they knew when Jack's phone was moving, when he was in his bed sleeping and moving around, whether that was under his pillow or it was on his blankets or whatever moving around. So they have a absolute certainty where Jack was that night, and there's surveillance that was going on around there that lets them know. Of course, he could sneak up in the attic and go through the crawl space. You could always, you could do these YouTube crazy scenarios where he got out of the house without triggering any of the surveillance that they had. But realistically,
well, if there's surveillance going on around there, then it should have picked up Brian Koberger. If they can see Jack Decor, they can see Brian Koberger if he was there, in my opinion. Just saying.
These guys are on top of it, and I think if he thinks he picked the right community, a bunch of dumb hillbillies, he's really in for a rude awakening.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Meant to ever pull a crime like this off. And I've been told that the FBI wanted clear lines. Like, you guys are going to be working on this stream of information. We're going to be working on this stream of information. And Stalking was one of them. When I had to sit down meetings with those FBI agents, they talked about how it was a 20-year term that they could possibly get if, because I was worried that things, I thought at one particular time, maybe I could have shot the charges dropped on Kaylee and picked up at the federal level, and then there would be a fail-safe in case something happened at the state level, if any mistakes were made, if anything got thrown out. We were just trying to be that careful, and they basically let me know that they had an investigation that they could still pick up, even if something got messed up. This person was not going to walk free.
Okay, now this was heard earlier in a clip that we were watching and talking about, and this is something I wanted to ask everybody about, because there's no federal charges here. There's nothing that could be charged federally. He stated that earlier on too, that this is covered via state and federal. There's nothing here federal. So what is he even talking about with that? Or is this something, once again, he's being fed to keep him calm? Because there are no federal charges here, you guys.
Did we hear him talk about the mass unaliving in Lewiston Clark area, or is that something that's coming up in this video?
That's coming up. It's supposed to come up here at some point.
Yeah,
That was
I didn't really understand it when I was listening to it while I was working, and I didn't understand if he was trying to suggest that BK had done that prior and got away with it. But I mean, one could do some digging on that and come up with how plausible that could be. I mean, you'd think that you could eliminate him from that pretty quickly, and if you couldn't eliminate him from that pretty quickly, that would be interesting.
Yeah, right. Agreed. Yeah, there's no federal charges that they could put on this guy, even that I can even imagine. And we talked about this earlier in the Discord with my moderators, and it just doesn't make any sense. So, okay.
But unless this Lewiston Clark thing happened like a month earlier, where's the time for Brian to move from Pennsylvania, do this thing, and then do that thing? I'm
Agreed.
Sorry if I'm doubting his involvement in that.
No, I mean, it makes sense, Jesse. It does. What you're saying makes sense, and that doesn't make sense. So yeah,
somebody should get on the Google machine and try and figure out a timeline and what happened in that multiple unaliving in Lewiston Clark.
Right. It's a good point and a good idea.
When does he have time to study?
Right. And work
and grade pay and work as a teacher's assistant, not just being a student. But I mean, man, that sounds.
Yeah. Oh, don't forget, and to plan this crime too that he premeditated. Okay.
And stay up all night doing some of the things that some people say he's been doing.
Of course, makes so much sense to me. Not really, but just saying.
If somebody came out and, heaven forbid, got caught lying, or the Brady or whatever, the different things that can throw evidence out.
So to bring that up tells me that he knows something about that possibly happening. Otherwise, why would you even throw that out there? That's all I got to say about that. That's interesting.
Not very well, because he still got it delivered to his house by name. When you mentioned the FBI, I thought this case could have easily gone to the FBI, given the fact that a lot of that kill kit was purchased in Pennsylvania. He traveled to Washington. If he was doing some following online, one could perceive that some of that following may have been done in Washington. He crossed state lines to go and park at their residence, and for at least on one night for over an hour, between 10 to 4 a.m. Those are all pretty big signs that this could go to federal. But they went through the state. And from based on what you tell me, it sounds like they got a strong case against him.
Yeah. One of the reasons that you can make it a federal case is if you conspired. If you're sitting there and you're doing things online, I think I'd have to go back and review the actual provision, but it talks about if you're committing a crime and you're using a computer to do the crime. And that K-bar being ordered there means that he's got premeditation, and he started planning it back there and then went and committed it in another state, and then or relocated to another state from the origins of the crime, and then jumped over to Idaho. So I definitely think it could have qualified for a federal case, and I think they would have. I think there was really a close battle, and there was some back and forth on who was going to take this case over. But there was so much evidence that they were like, let's just let them. It is an Idaho thing. Let them have it. And I know one thing that they told me was don't expect the death penalty if it goes federal.
Oh, got you. Yeah, that makes a big difference there.
112, I think that is the other surveillance that basically we could hear a lot clearer during the exact same times. So anyone who thinks that they're breaking a case over these cameras and whatever they're hearing, it's kind of naive. It's naive to think that you heard something and everybody's going to throw this investigation off and not and overlook something that you found is so amazing. This true crime stuff is it's an eye opener. It sucks to have your daughter's murder be like some form of somebody's like entertainment, and they like to go out there and stir up their followers and make narratives that are more like for novels than real life. So it's terrible, and I don't know what I'm going to do if I ever cross one of these people.
Yeah,
I've thought to myself, do I just go to jail? And do I just
not worth it.
But it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard,
Yeah.
And
No,
and that's not most of them. There's only a few that are like that. I mean, most people are trying to be honest and like you are and you have been, and it does. And I don't even expect you to always be right. We haven't been right every time either. So, I just expect people to be honorable and don't purposely spin a narrative that in the back of your mind is false, and you just hope that your users never cross the same information that you found. You go suppress certain things to keep your narrative alive longer. I'm almost positive that there's people doing that because I've seen other people make comments that said, hey, this happened at this time, this doesn't follow your scenario, and then they just strike that. That thing's been deleted. They delete it after a certain amount of time. So it tells me that this person isn't after the truth. They're just after rallying up their followers. We knew very early on with those FBI saying that we're almost looking more for someone who turned their phone off during these times. That was more of a red flag to them than having a phone on. Now, most of the phones, of course, they're going to go through all those people in that area and look for out of area numbers. So
an IT guy, apparently he puts his phone in a VPN when he turns it on at 4:48. Mm-hmm. What does that tell you? What is a VPN for those that don't know, and what is somebody trying to accomplish with that?
VPN protects some of your identifiers. And normally on a PC, it's just mainly your IP. They're not nearly what people think they are. So what you could do is, so you're really tough. It's really hard to do this with a cell phone because a cell phone. Here's the problem with the cell phone is the towers won't communicate with you until you prove that you have a contract to use their services. So what that means is when your phone comes up, goes through boot order, and it goes out and says, hey, this is my unique identifiers. I'm this person. I'm on AT&T. I'm on Sprint, whatever it is. I got a vile contract, and this it's a certificate on that device says, I want to use your tower. Idaho law, not federal law.
Continue to just turn down that road that heads to Sunshine, and it gets them right there in front of Floyd's Cannabis Shop before 302 again. That's what they're working with, and if that's what they have, it shouldn't be very long.
Oh, the statistics of this case are just incredible. So people who say that this is just circumstantial evidence, they're not talking to professionals, because I'm talking to professionals, and they say that there's direct evidence all over this case. This case is, like I said, this individual does nothing but capital cases, and this is the most that he's ever seen. And I live by that. We will show that. So DM, that's direct evidence. DM's testimony, and people think, oh well, whoopie-doo-dah, they're bushy eyebrows, and it's a white guy who's skinny. Well, do you realize, people, that they've run the stats on this? A guy at that age, the category, I think they went to like 30 to I think like 19 or 18, and said what percentage is male? And so you remove, and in college towns, there's more girls going to college than there is males. So then that dropped it in, like, let's say 46. And then they said, okay, white. And then that dropped it lower. And then they said lean. That was the one that got my attention. 70% of people in that age category are overweight.
Mhm.
And he's deleting his history, and his own family is like, what the heck is going on with our brother? Our brother's like losing his mind.
See, there's been multiple things at this point that have been stated that are not true, and I'm not going to be disrespectful, but it's not good.
That they would jump ship, and some did, but there's still people who just can overlook, no alibi. The murder weapon's in his house, in his possession. He doesn't have it anymore.
The murder weapons in his house, in his possession. Where, see, this is what I'm saying. These types of statements are going to make people believe there is no murder weapon. Nobody's ever found one. I mean, am I wrong? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no murder weapon. Okay, and this again, no, this is not good.
Or he doesn't have any of the items associated. Yeah, and this Dickies outfit, people, they've gone to the actual stores and looked up the inventory, exactly what is in those things. And there's only a certain amount. For those who don't know, Pullman and Moscow are very, very small towns. So your Dickies selection is like this big. You know, it's that big. Maybe a little bit bigger than that, but not much. It's not like a Dickies that you see in the city where you.
That has no bearing on anything. The Dickies, if they were purchased, came off of line. They didn't come from a store in Pullman or Moscow, so that means nothing there. Again, no disrespect intended, but
There's all these things. There's Dickie boots and all. There's very slim things that this individual could have bought, and it's like a monkey suit, you know, like a suit you put on where you're changing oil, and the oil could literally pour off of you.
Right.
So, yeah. Is this footprint? I mean, somebody who goes through the exercise of doing a survey in Reddit, and if you go look at the times, the guy had already graduated because it was on Kings Road, and it was the house that for multiple generations where every kid wanted to be because of the location. Put you, as soon as you got off the campus from the football game, you're right there, so you could go drink and not be harassed. You know. And if you wonder why 911 wasn't called, you know, use your brain, guys. I mean, maybe you didn't go to college. You don't need to go to college to understand that. You want to get off campus and you want to have a beer with your friends. And if you got somebody who's 21 and somebody who's not 21, you better talk to the person who's 21 before you call 911.
Yeah.
Or that's standard protocol, right? That's standard protocol. Because if that six-pack in the fridge has got 2 beers and those 2 beers are in somebody's room that they should be in, you know, now graduation, your finals are over. You know, you're sitting in you're getting citation or who knows what goes with that, you know. So
Yeah,
people can read between the lines and understand what was probably going on.
was because he was a veterinarian tech, and at his place of business they had I guess materials that would protect veterinarian techs during surgeries, and that's what he had worn, and he was
going to see it. And you know, there's a thing, you know, there's exclusive knowledge. You know, if you know about a certain part of a crime before it's made general public, or maybe before it even happens, it's pretty damning. To me, there's nothing more damage. But I also thought people would change their tune when the Amazon order puts the murder weapon in his house, and you know, his own family's like wondering what the heck's going on. And when I say family, I believe it's just one sister that was really helpful, where the other people weren't so much helpful.
Well, I mean, they're pretty specific on the March 20th to March 30th time frame for that.
To think that some people are still following a narrative that he has been all set up. Like, who set you up when they don't even know who you are? And that's another way. You're going to plant somebody's DNA and they're not in CODIS? What are you, stupid? And there's criminals all around your community that you could literally plant that and they'd be arrested and never see a day of light and they'd be over and done with. Nobody would even question it. But you're gonna go after this PhD guy who you're gonna have to do this whole IgG thing to it's going to spend weeks working on it. It doesn't even make sense. Who sets up somebody like that? Yeah. So I appreciate you giving an audience and helping set the table straight and help bringing out as much truth as we possibly can. I always say, go to Idaho's webpage, go look at the court records, go through it. Don't take my word. Don't take Daniel's word. Go look yourself. Really shoot the shit and catch up and hang out and have a. Like I said, I want enough information to come out to where when this conviction's over and done with, these trolls just go and find another case to talk about, and we can go back to normal, and we never have to deal with this stuff anymore. I've already told my family once we get to the death penalty, we'll step away. We don't need to do any interviews. We don't need to be involved in it anymore. And I didn't even want to worry about it at that point. I just know he's locked up with 23-1. That's good enough for me. And if it takes 20 years, 30 years, it's not my problem. I've done as much as I possibly can as a father, and but I don't want it to just become my identity. We have to go fishing, and we got to go hang out with.
So where is this part about? Where he basically says Kaylee is alive. I don't remember hearing that when I went through this before. This is a strange interview. I'll have to give you that, in my opinion.
That just blew my mind when he tried to suggest that because of a 6-pack in the fridge, the 911 call didn't go out. I mean, what was he trying to say there? Does he expect anybody to believe that?
I don't. I think he does with everything he says, and all due respect, I think very few people believe a lot of what is stated here. I don't know, you guys. I don't understand this. This is strange to me. Very strange to me.
I mean, that was just mind blowing, especially when you put into context the fact that they had said previously that the 911 call didn't go out because they were sleeping and they woke up, and then they called Hunter over to push the door in. So there's all those lies and all that smoke and mirrors misleading us. And now it's, come on, guys, give your head a shake. You were in college, you were 20 and scared to death that they'd catch you with a 6-pack. No, I've never been scared to death that they're going to catch me with a 6-pack.
No, I went there to have that happen when I would go hang out at the campus and hang out with my friends. So yes, no, I was never afraid of that situation. Oh, I know what you're talking about. When he made the statement, I think he misspoke. He made a statement where he's talking about as long as Kaylee doesn't have to go to court. I think he meant go to court for Kaylee due to the lawsuit that he has against Moscow, the wrongful death suit that he had filed. I think that's what he meant, and just misspoke.
Drop that and then press federal charges.
Yeah, right. So that's all I think that was misspeaking. I don't by any means believe it was anything else other than that. So it doesn't make any sense to mean anything else, truly. It's obvious that she's deceased. So, I mean, he wouldn't be doing everything he's doing if she wasn't. That's what I think that was, is he just was saying something once again and misspoke. I mean, that's just my opinion. Others may disagree, and that's okay. I respect that. So, yeah, I'm probably going to go through that again another time because it's a very strange interview. It's just weird. I can't even explain it. I don't know, Eddie, Jesse, how you feel about it, but
it's gaslighting. I mean, he doesn't believe that. There's no way he believes that. It's contrary to what he's said in the past. No, I mean, even a 10, 12-year-old kid would know the cops aren't doing you for a 6-pack in the fridge in a house with 6 people in it. There's no way to prove what's whose or where it came from or who left it there. I mean, not to mention the fact that what would motivate the cops who were called to a potential crime to even notice a 6-pack or give a shit about a 6-pack. I mean, that's just it almost sounded to me like he was metaphorically speaking, like, I'm going to say 6-pack because I don't want to say 8-ball. But you remember when you were in college and you used to do 8-balls? You can't
Sure.
call the cops when you got an 8 because that would make sense. And
Sure.
it don't
And
make sense. A 6-pack only makes sense if it's metaphorically an 8-ball.
yeah, and to go, I'll find that clip of what they were talking about because somebody asked me to play it. I will but I'm telling you, it's a misspoken statement in my opinion, but that's okay. The other thing he's making statements about things that have already been stated by both sides in court that it's not going to happen, but making statements about one specific sister having issues with the knife being purchased and being at the home and this and that, and she's been helpful in that way, and so on. You're coming off stating that they're going to be just testifying against him, so on and so forth. And we heard from both sides, truly, that's not happening. His family's not going to testify against him. They're going to be there to support him, but they're not there to testify against him. So I'm curious to see why this has been. I mean, I guess I could understand why it's believed because maybe this is what he's being told, but I don't see this happening, you guys. I just don't. I do not believe that Brian Koberger's family is going to come to Boise to testify against their son and brother. I don't see that happening.
Well, the fact that he was communicating with Brett Norton in the past shows that he's a little naive. You know, he starts talking about other people being naive. I think he's shown that he's been quite naive. We know that he communicates on the regular with Daniel. He probably communicates with Gray Hughes as well, and we won't need to name the rest of them. But I think he's talking to these people. He's getting it. You know, he's getting forming his narrative around information that he's getting from these kind of sources.
Yeah.
Which he was, you know, we know he was doing that in the past with Brett Norton. Why would we expect that to change? You know.
Agreed. And he even
Once people show you who they are, that's who they are.
Right. And he even made a statement about getting certain things from law enforcement and kids from the internet that are within the social media aspects talking about. I mean, it says it right there. I mean, that's not a good thing. So let me see this real fast if I can find this one piece here. I think it was more close to the beginning, and we'll run through that section real fast, which is just a matter of a couple seconds, and see what he says again.
Coming into that courtroom.
All right, here we go. I think this is it here in this realm. I'll square it up.
Have the charges dropped on Haley and pick
Some sort of following, at least on the internet of some sort.
Yeah, it was kind of confusing at the very beginning, and I'm sure it was confusing for the investigators because I went in there one day with my family, and we were like, "What happened to the LinkedIn? Why were you guys into our account? Why did you remove it?" And they looked at us like we were from another planet. Eyes bulge, and we could tell they were being completely honest. They were like, "We have no idea what you're talking about." Well, we later on figured out and investigated and found out that it was the FBI. So there was 2 parallel investigations going on at the same time. So I think, and I've been told that the FBI wanted clear lines. Like, you guys are going to be working on this stream of information. We're going to be working on this stream of information. The stalking was one of them. When I had the sit down meetings with those FBI agents, they talked about how it was a 20-year term that they could possibly get if, because I was worried that things, I thought at one particular time, maybe I could have the charges dropped on Kaylee and picked up at the federal level. And then there would be a fail-safe in case something happened at the state level, if any mistakes were made, if anything got thrown out. We were just trying to be that careful. And they basically,
What he's talking about, it's the way he's saying it is what's confusing people. What he means by having the charges dropped on Kaylee, meaning the charges against the suspect dropped in regards to Kaylee and then picked up on a federal level instead of the state level, which you can't do. Okay. it's the way he's explaining it is what's confusing everybody. That's what I was saying. It's a misspeak. And he's misspoken these things. Which that's not something you can't just go in and say, hey guys, I want you to drop the charges here against the person that killed my daughter and pick them up at a federal level. You can't just do that. Okay, that's you can't. So hold on, let's get to the other side.
Basically, let me know that they had an investigation that they could still pick up, even if something got messed up. This person was not going to walk free if somebody came out and, heaven forbid, got caught lying, or the Brady, or whatever the different things that can throw evidence out. There was still another investigation that they felt very confident in. That I remember one of the agents saying, "We're the FBI. Do you think that a mass murderer of 4 would be released on a technicality?" And I was like, "I don't know." And they're like, "No. We've sealed, we've looked, we have evidence. This individual will never be free again. 100%. We have the right guy. There's no doubt in our minds. And we can have him at the state level. We can have him at the federal level." So it built my confidence into state.
The judge mentioned something about a gift card as well. It sure does seem like it. I mean,
I don't really know too much about hunting and the type of
I know they have some blood on a handrail, and I know they have some other persons that they might look.
That this individual picked this community on purpose, because I guess they knew by the crime scene that this was a planned out event. There wasn't.
You mentioned the 23 times that he was around that place.
Individuals doing when he was making these trips. The people got hung up, and even myself, over the stalking. This individual picked this community. They wouldn't be surprised if he was on hugging the border of Washington. He was on the Washington side.
That they have a full of alternate suspects.
He knew when Jack's phone was moving when he was in his judge to verify if he ever had a fishing or a hunting license since he bought the K-bar stuff. From what he said to us, we're hoping to do some fishing trips out here. We're going to
out about his arrest. When did you find out about his arrest?
They called Shannon Gray, our lawyer, right away, as soon as before us, and they probably gave him like a celebration of life, and we basically prayed that
a social media account potentially belonging to Brian Koberger, following some of the victims and your daughter and Maddie and Xana. Do you still feel that way, that that's the right profile, and that there was some sort of following, at least on the internet, of some sort?
Yeah. It was kind of confusing at the very beginning, and I'm sure it was confusing for the investigators, because I went in there one possibly get if because I was worried that things. I thought at one particular time maybe I could have the charges dropped on Kaylee and picked up at the federal level, and then there would be a fail-safe in case something happened at the state level, if any mistakes were made, if anything, and picked up at the federal level, and then there would be a fail-safe.
The sharpener, the jumpsuit.
If you're sitting there and you're doing things online, I think
Another place on Linda Lane, that
surveillance that basically we could hear a lot clearer during the exact same times. So anyone who thinks that they're breaking a case over these cameras and whatever they're hearing, it's kind of naive. It's naive to think that. I've seen other people make comments that said, "Hey, this happened at this time. This doesn't follow your scenario," and then they just strike that. That thing's been deleted. They delete it after
gag order. But when you have the opportunity to maybe view it or not, is there a distinct time difference between
when it hits one and then goes to another? Then they can tell you the speed, and they can even tell you if the battery life, what it is, out in a way that.
Does anybody know right around exactly where this is in this video? Because I can't seem to find it. I know it's in here because I heard it this morning.
Just go through all that stuff, trying to find out somebody that can put into a chamber where they're not going to be watching the media. Then, you know, I mean, they're so concerned. They're just making up stories like we wore. I never wore anything. None of the G's ever wore any of that. That's why we went back and said, go find it. Find some proof. And of course they backed off of that because they went and checked the cameras. There was no. Yeah. But when I leave that courtroom, I'll put on anything I want, and my family will put on anything they want, and they're not going to control that. So, well, you know, like I said, we're going to be a family that makes this individual look back and think, you know, if there was one big mistake I made was going after a G, because those guys didn't stop. They just kept coming. They kept coming. And how much easier would have my life been if I didn't have to turn on the TV and only see that guy, you know, pointing out what I did. And then you can go out. This guy was just they hear on that Linda Lane. Probably shouldn't say his name. And I'm gonna do the will of the victims. And but I don't know if his heart was always in it, you know. And they need more parent, you know, interactions and fathers. And I would ask them to go, you know, join sports or find a family, you know. And if a family can be a football team, a baseball team, a basketball team, it could be a church, it could be a lot of other things. But don't think that it's all, you know, girls and all that stuff. As a matter of fact, one of the
punishment that's behind it as well.
Yeah. Another thing about the death row is what people don't, maybe they do know. I never knew. It's 23-1. So you're locked down 23 hours and you get 1 hour out. So you can't go and enroll in colleges. You can't pursue higher education. You can't go and have dreams of, you know, motivating other people to do what.
I mean, at this point, their biggest argument is a partial alibi over an hour before the murders happened, and in an area where it's not exculpatory for him to continue to just turn down that road that heads to Sunshine, and it gets him right there.
Team and said, what percentage is male? And so you remove, and in college town, there's more girls going to college than there is males. So then that dropped it in, like, let's say 46. And then they said, okay, white. And then that dropped it lower. And then they said lean. That was the one that got my attention. 70% of people in that age category are overweight. Mm-hmm. So now you got an individual who, as eyewitnesses there, that literally like 2 out of 10 meet that qualification, a white guy that's lean.
Yeah.
And he has a white car and he's out.
Okay. So rather than trying to sort through this, I'll just pull that up and then we'll hit the documents. Because there's a lot of people that want to hear it. Like I said, I personally think it's just a misspoken statement, but that's just my opinion. So one moment here, I got it. And there is another document Jules pulled up, said that there was some more interesting stuff within the one document that refers to the DNA that I kind of really wanted to hit too. So hold on.
Poor Eddie's been waiting patiently for this Steve G interview to end. I know Eddie was suffering through it.
Yes, and I apologize, and I appreciate the patience very much.
It seems like the chat is debating what he was talking about when he said that guy on Linda Lane. Diego, you think it's Kane the landlord?
That's what I think he was referring to. Which that he had contact with him. Steve did too. So
yeah,
that's how some of that information came out, you guys.
But the way he said it, though, it sounded like he was like trying to debunk something. It sounded like he was in a debunking mode, and there's nothing really to debunk with this Kane fella, because this Kane fella didn't really have a narrative. He just released the film, right? I mean, he didn't participate in breaking down what people saw in the film.
Not that I know of, not at all. Yeah.
So the way I interpreted it, he said Farley that he was locked up. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think that's what he was referring to.
It could be, very well could be, yes. All right, here we go, guys. This is one Heather Fitzgerald put out yesterday or last night, or maybe early this morning. Anyway, this is what everybody's referring to, is the way he claims this. Some people believe that it's making it sound like the way he stated it was that Kaylee had to go to court I guess to make it sound like she was alive, which it's obvious, you know, kind of a misunderstanding. All right, hang on. Here we go.
We've sealed, we've looked, we have evidence. This individual will never be free again. 100%, we have the right guy. There's no doubt in our minds. And we can have him at the state level, we can have him at the federal level. So it built my confidence into sticking with the state level and not. It would have been more expensive. It would have been more expensive. It would have been more expensive. And I literally was at the point where I was like, if it means that we don't ever. And I literally was at the point where I was like, if it means that we don't ever, Kaylee doesn't ever go to court for her, you know, thing. Kaylee doesn't ever go to court for her, you know, thing. Kaylee doesn't ever go to court for her, you know, thing. I would have been fine with that, just to have the backup, just to have the know that if something went wrong, but they were like, no need. This is, I've had individuals that do nothing but capital cases, 100%. That's all they do every single day of their lives. Say that this is the strongest case that they've ever worked upon. They've never seen a case with this much evidence.
So that statement there is what everybody's upset about. As long as Kaylee doesn't ever have to go to court, I don't think he means her personally. I mean, like her case, Kaylee's case has to go to court, and he represents her case, not her herself. That's what I think he's referring to, is what I'm saying by misspeaking that. Does that make sense what I'm saying, or does nobody understand how I'm putting that?
It
Thank
makes sense what you're saying, but it certainly doesn't make sense the way he said it. I could see how people would get confused over the way he
Sure.
was speaking.
Sure.
But the way he was, it's just common sense that he must mean it in the way that you're saying, because there's no other way to.
That's the only way it makes sense. Right. Yeah, because it's obvious that she's not with us anymore. But to make the statement, like I said, he does that a lot. He misspeaks when referring to certain things, and then he doesn't go back and correct it. And people just sit here and go, why'd you say that, sir? You know what I mean? It's strange. And why would it be more expensive? I mean, I guess if he's personally filing charges, or these cases that he's actually covering, putting out there, wrongful death, whatever, so on and so forth, that's what he's talking about it costing him more money to do it in a federal stance. But none of this makes any sense the way I just don't think he understands a lot of this. Somebody stated earlier today that he doesn't quite understand how the law works and stuff like that. And maybe that's what it is, you know, again, all due respect intended, but meanwhile, you're making statements that are coming back around to you, and it shouldn't be happening. That's all, you know, that's, you know, speaking on her behalf. Exactly. Simply is kind of what I was referring to. And I've seen him do it before, but that's going to definitely get people to go, what did you just say? You know what I mean? So I understand completely. And there you go, guys. Sorry it took me so long. I should have just thought about Heather having it. My apologies. Now back to these other, so we can get to where Eddie wanted to be. I'm sorry it took so long. Like I said, there was a couple different things we were going to review, and I planned on us being here for a little bit of time. Hold on here. Let me find my link again. It's right here. And make sure that nothing else dropped in here this morning, by the way, because that's what happened yesterday. I went to go live, checked it, and then as soon as I went live, there was 10 more documents that were there the hour before. So I was like, shit, okay, surprise. Where's it at?
I was really hoping I could have been on. I wish I was on yesterday's panel, because I thought your guys' conversation was so interesting.
Sure.
I was shouting at the replay trying to get a word in, but nobody was listening.
Yeah. I've been there, done that before. Absolutely. It was a
Yeah,
document.
Jesse, I think that was largely a part of the document itself was so interesting.
It was.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, that whole he went to get a kitchen knife, and the idea that they played out the 911 call twice. I'm still not 100% sure if that's totally clear, but I certainly agreed that it sort of leaned that way.
Well, they acted out the 911 call, or they acted out a situation and then turned around and replayed it back on the 911 call, and you can't say that didn't happen. This is what the judge is telling us.
I mean, unless they recorded the times wrong in the document, but according to the document, they acted it out and replayed it in the 911 call.
Yeah, well, 11:50, and then at 11:56 they call 911 and do the exact same thing they had just done before that.
You don't have to convince me the 911 call was staged. I thought it was staged from the moment I heard it, but I'd like to see more concrete evidence so that anybody who doesn't believe that could be convinced.
Sure, I can absolutely agree with you. For those of you that didn't see the document yesterday that we're reviewing, it's really out there. It changes a lot of things that we have already known throughout this whole case and believed, and completely sets standards differently now for us to review this in, because it doesn't exist as it did, in my opinion. Okay. So where do you want to start, Eddie? Where do you want to go to? What are we going to look at first, you guys? Because there's let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these. Some of these are just ceilings. Okay. Nothing that we can actually review or talk about. They're just ceilings and motions to seal. Now this one here.
Start at the top with the order on defendant's motion in limine regarding vague and undisclosed expert testimony.
All right, here we are. That was kind of my thought too. 1 second here. So this is the order on defendant's motion in limine, read the vague and undisclosed expert testimony. Via introduction here, it says the defendant moves to limit or exclude several different experts disclosed by the state on the grounds that their disclosures are deficient in some regard. And that means that the defendant's challenge to Ryland Nolan's expert disclosures was addressed in the order on the defendant's motion in limine re Ryland Nolan and touch or contact DNA on April 18th of 25. Defendant's challenge to David Middleman's disclosure is rendered moot by the parties' agreement to not present IgG evidence. It adds that several, sorry guys, the state responds that it has complied with all discovery obligations and its disclosures are sufficient. It adds that several of the defendant's challenges are fodder for cross-examination and not exclusion. Oral argument on the motion was held on April 9th of 25, after which the court took the matter under advisement. The court finds no basis to exclude or limit the disclosed expert testimony at this time. But if the defendant believes an expert is testifying at trial outside the scope of his or her disclosure, he may object at the time and the court will consider it. Anything for anybody here? You guys want to talk about that before we move to the next paragraph? I just figured it'd be easier to break each paragraph down little by little.
Not much that interests me. How about you, Eddie?
No, moving forward.
Okay. So the standard on that, the trial court's decision regarding discovery violations must be supported by substantial and competent evidence in the record. State versus Cots, 157 Idaho, all of that from 2014. Choice of sanctions for failure to comply with discovery obligations, or whether to impose a sanction at all, is discretionary. On discretionary matters, the trial court must, number one, correctly perceive the issue as one of discretion. Number two, act within the outer boundaries of its discretion. And number three, act consistently with the legal standards applicable to the specific choices available to it, and reach its decision by the exercise of reason. Any comments?
No. You want me to take the next paragraph?
Sure thing. Go for it, buddy. Appreciate it.
3,
Welcome.
analysis. Rule 16B7 requires the state to provide, upon written request of the defendant, a written summary or report of any testimony that the state intends to introduce at trial that qualifies as expert witness testimony under IRE 702, 703, or 705. The disclosure must include a summary of the witness opinions, the facts and data for those opinions, and the witness's qualifications. When a party fails to comply with discovery, the trial court may impose sanctions, including, in appropriate circumstances, the exclusion of a witness. State versus Wilson. A. Jenny Ayers. Footnote 2. The state submitted 3 disclosures for Miss Ayers. The initial disclosure, S15, the rebuttal disclosures, S1, and amended supplement disclosure, S1. Jenny Ayers is a forensic scientist with the Idaho State Police Forensic Services who works in evidence collecting and crime scene processing. She is disclosed to testify in the state's case in chief about crime scene processing generally, including collecting DNA, bloodstains, latent fingerprints, hair and fibers, and shoe impressions. She will explain what DNA is, that it may be present in biological material or left on an item when handled, and that it is collected for preservation and sent elsewhere for testing. She is also going to testify to her work in this case, detailed in Lab Report 25 and supporting field notes. That report discusses ISP's processing of defendant's Pullman apartment and Washington State University office, which included photographing and collecting evidence. Ms. Ayers was specifically involved in capturing images of the apartment and office and performing presumptive tests for the presence of blood at various points in the apartment. Her rebuttal testimony concerns ISP's crime scene investigation procedures generally and the ISP forensics team's processing of the crime scene at 1122 King Road, including identifying areas that contain probative evidence. In addition, the lab report 11, and field notes for the team's work are referenced by Bates within the disclosure. Defendant argues Ms. Ayers' case in chief disclosures do not provide any opinions she has about crime scene processing or about DNA at issue in this case. Thus, he asked the court to limit her testimony to her qualifying background and her work in Lab Report 25. As to her rebuttal disclosure, defendant argues again that it fails to provide any opinion about crime scene investigation procedures, and it does not clearly state what she did in processing 1122 King Road and what her opinion is regarding that work. Defendant's challenges misapprehend the type of expert Ms. Ayers is. Much like law enforcement, Ms. Ayers is a hybrid fact expert witness as opposed to a traditional expert. She will be educating the jury on crime scene investigation procedures to provide foundation for her testimony regarding the work she and her team performed in this case, as outlined in Lab Reports 25 and 11 and the accompanying field notes. This testimony is factual in nature, despite the fact that it requires special knowledge, skill, experience, and training. Consequently, the absence of opinions in her disclosure does not limit her ability to testify to these matters. In addition, Ms. Ayers' rebuttal disclosure is replete with explanations about why and how the crime scene investigation was carried out at 1122 King Road. Her testimony will be allowed as disclosed. Footnote 3. For example, the disclosure discusses why the team focused on certain areas of the home as opposed to others, why they decided not to collect mattresses and bed frames, and why they swabbed and or applied amido black where they did. There's a lot to unpack in that one.
There really is.
Does anybody have initial?
I personally know, but I mean, what do you think, Eddie? If anything, of course.
I just got a quick question, Eddie. Is she there to tell us why they don't have any evidence, or is there anything to suggest that she actually has any evidence?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
That's
it doesn't really say. She's just gonna try to validate her method. It sounds like, is that kind of a good way to?
That's how I took it too. Yeah.
Recap.
But that wouldn't that sort of lead you to believe that she's trying to validate their methods and why they didn't come up with anything?
Yeah, or why they omitted what they did too, maybe.
I mean, don't they have to disclose, like, if there's all this talk about blood in the apartment and stuff, but they're not disclosing that they found any blood in the apartment or hair or anything?
No, everything that was taken into the chain of custody ended up being nothing. So yeah.
And is Ann Taylor's objecting to this because she doesn't have any idea what this woman's going to talk about?
It could be. That could be. Let me see here.
I mean, we've heard Ann Taylor say that a lot, that they've given the experts, but she has no idea what their experts are there to talk about, right?
Well, based on the title itself, stating that it's per the vague and undisclosed expert testimony, basically, I think she's just trying to, object, or she's objecting to it because they're worried. In a sense, like you said, they don't know what the hell she's going to be talking about because it's vague.
Yeah, if you're not going to tell us what your expert's there to say, right, then you have no right to introduce the expert into the court.
Yeah, we don't know what to expect from you, so in turn, I don't think you need to be there per se. So.
Mm-hmm.
This gets us sidelined just a little bit, but it is along the same topic. And I've wanted to mention this many times in the past. This is probably my best opportunity. It won't take us long, but it's kind of a thought experiment about like what I would consider like gifted evidence. And you'll know what I mean by that in just a moment, because we're going to imagine, all of us here for a moment, imagine yourself as an investigator and you walk into this crime scene. It's a homicide and someone was stabbed. And right next to a body lies a knife. And there's a tag on the knife that says a person's first and last name, their social security number, telephone number, address. And you find it. It's kind of too good to be true, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
In crime scene investigation, when you find evidence, there's more than one way to look at it.
Sure.
And misdirection is as old as time. We know Joseph in the coat of many colors, his brothers were jealous of him and they pretended to murder him, and they took a wild animal and put blood on the coat, and then they sold. Here comes some traders, that are heading to Egypt, and they sold them off into slavery. They thought better of murdering them actually, and they made some money while they were at it, and then they told their father that, we all know the story, but I mean, so it's Dago, you watch enough, like Dateline, and it's the old cigarette butt trick where you are actually at the crime scene and then you leave someone else's cigarette butt, knowing that it's going to mislead the investigation. So
yeah,
it's kind of like the shell casing, not the shell case, it's the actual bullet in the woods right next to two bodies in Delphi, right? I mean, that's not real evidence.
No, especially not in that case. No.
Yeah. So, and this whole thought experiment, it's given it too much credit. I mean, this thought experiment is assuming that investigators walked up and then a sheath was in that bedroom, which it wasn't. But even if it was, you don't look at it like, oh, here, this is our case. You know, our work is done. That was a quick day. Just look into the sheath, and then we got it solved. That's more like, you know, like suspicious type of gifted evidence, like too good to be true. This is not real life.
Sure, and that's why I believe that Anne believes it was placed, as she stated.
Did you see the comment from Phil?
She's not an expert witness. She's a rebuttal witness to explain why certain items were not retained and certain methods were not employed, not expert testimony. Thank you, Phil.
Makes plenty of sense, that comment.
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you, Phil. Again, like I said, this is why, and I'm pretty sure that Anne plans on riding the whole fact that she claimed that the sheath was placed there, that it wasn't part of the crime scene per se. Okay. What she's going to do to prove that, and you would have to be able to prove that at some point to be able to keep that out there. Okay. In my opinion. So, I'm expecting to see something coming with that. Not to jump off subject too much, but anybody else have any statements or thoughts on that? Let me see. Okay. Thank you again, Phil, for that. Musical Contessa is asking Eddie, any thought to share on what direction you anticipate Special Agent Nick Balance to go?
We can read that one now. Should we cover it beginning now?
Yeah, if you want to.
Absolutely.
All right. I'll continue.
I want to eat my dessert before I eat my meat.
There you go.
Let's go straight to the pudding.
Okay, so we got B, Special Agent Nicholas Balance. There's already a footnote. I'll start with the footnote.
There you go.
The state submitted 3 disclosures for Mr. Balance: the initial disclosure S2, the rebuttal disclosure S2, and the amended supplemental disclosure S2. In addition, throughout this case, defense has had and been on notice of the Exhibit A's to the various search warrant affidavits, which detail much of the opinion and analysis of the CAST team and thus Balance, including those related to defendants' locations at the outlined times before and after the homicides. FBI Special Agent Balance was primarily involved in the analysis of cell phone records in the investigation. He is disclosed to testify in the state's case in chief about his analysis of AT&T cell phone records for defendant Madison Mogan and Xana Kernodle, as well as his own drive testing measurements to determine the use and general location of their cell phones between June 2022 and November 2022. Accompanying his initial disclosure in his 30-page CAST report, which discusses and maps the data he reviewed and the methodology employed. Initial disclosure, Exhibit S2A. His supplemental disclosure goes through each page of the CAST report to discuss its significance. He will also discuss topics pertaining to how cellular technology works, particularly how cell towers operate and how cell phones connect to the towers, how cell phone usage data is reflected in call detail records, and how those records provided by AT&T for the target cell phones in this case were used to create cell site maps showing their general location before and after the homicide and their direction of travel. In challenging Agent Balance case in chief disclosures, defendant provides the affidavit of his cell phone data expert, Cy Ray. Mr. Ray complains that he is unable to identify Agent Balance's methodology, which was described in the CAST report. Mr. Ray states that the CAST report omits data and or fails to mention how certain AT&T data was utilized in his analysis, namely handoff data and drive test mapping, and why some data was ignored. Footnote 5. Mr. Ray notes that Agent Balance failed to include an analysis of handoff data for defendant's cell phone between the hours of 2:30 and 3 a.m. on November 13th. That he did not include the mapping he relied upon to establish defendant was near the crime scene on several occasions before the crime, and he failed to disclose how his drive testing works to a sufficient degree. He asserts this omitted data and methodology is exculpatory, and without it, he cannot fairly analyze Agent Balance's work. According to the state, its disclosures sufficiently identify Agent Balance's opinions and the facts and data he relied upon, and defendant's concerns are fodder for cross-examination. In fact, Agent Balance's rebuttal disclosure, the state marches through each concern outlined by Mr. Ray, offering additional explanation about what Agent Balance considered, including the handoff data and why. Defendant, however, asserts the attempted clarification in the rebuttal disclosure is insufficient, arguing there is no disclosure as to why he has omitted 95% of the relevant coverage maps for his drive testing, no analysis or mapping of the handoff data, and no documentation provided of the CAST report's peer review process. Footnote 6. There is no requirement under Rule 16 ICR that the state provide peer review documentation of an expert's report. Likewise, the rule does not require an expert to identify the data they did not rely upon or why they did not rely upon that data. I think to understand that footnote, I'd have to reread that. That seemed like word salad for me.
Yeah, you want me to read it again for you?
Sure.
There is no requirement under Rule 16 ICR that the state provide peer review documentation of an expert's report. Likewise, the rule does not require an expert to identify the data they did not rely upon or why they did not rely upon that data. It's a lot of word salad, Eddie. Don't feel bad. It still doesn't make much sense. One more time here. So there is no requirement under the Rule 16 ICR that the state must provide peer review documentation of an expert's report, period. Likewise, the rule does not require an expert to identify that data they did not rely upon or why they did not rely upon that data. Okay, that sounds a little better.
So it looks like a loophole, like they found an
Yeah.
Like a
excuse.
circular argument where they're saying, "Where is the data? We didn't use the data. Well,
Yes.
how did you get the conclusion without the data? We don't have to tell you because we didn't use the data." It's a circular argument.
Yes.
Another logical fallacy. And what I've been saying for weeks is that this entire case, every piece of evidence is a logical fallacy. And when you do debates, you're supposed to identify when your opponent in a debate is using a logical fallacy. Every single point of evidence in this case looks to me like a logical fallacy, whether it's ad hominem, the fallacy of large numbers, the appeal to authority, all the logical fallacies you can think of, you can apply to the evidence in this case provided by the state.
Sure, absolutely. The fact that they didn't push the several other samples of DNA to me says they knew they weren't Brian Koberger. Otherwise, they wouldn't. Otherwise, why wouldn't you want to make your case 7 times stronger if tested and happened to show BK?
Agree.
Exactly. Agreed. Hold on, guys. I got to deal with this stupid thing again real fast. I don't know why I can't get this to go away. I thought I fixed it and it came back. So just bear with me for about 3 seconds here. I'm sorry.
You want me to continue reading while you continue on fixing it?
Yeah, if you want to, go ahead.
Okay.
It's up to you, buddy.
However, the fact remains that defendant has all the facts and data that Agent Balance relied upon to form his opinions, which were expressed within his cast report. Footnote 7. Footnote 7. A draft of the cast report was disclosed to the defendant in the early stages of this case. It was subsequently peer-reviewed, and the final cast report was issued and disclosed in July of 2024. Initial disclosure, page 4. The data supporting Special Agent Balance's opinions is located in the files of the cell phone records provided by AT&T and the drive testing files which were provided to defense through discovery. Supplemental disclosure, page 2. Identifying disclosed information relied upon by Agent Balance by description, audio, video, number, and date disclosed. When his methodology might not be set forth with as much specificity as Mr. Ray would like, Rule 16 does not require that detailed methodology be provided. It requires merely opinions, facts, and data for those opinions, and the witness's qualifications. To the extent defendant believes Agent Balance omitted important data or is relying on insufficient data for his opinions, this is fodder for cross-examination, not exclusion. Moreover, if an opinion is not reasonably set forth within the disclosure, it will not be allowed. Footnote 8.
Oh, that's a big one.
The big one. For example, defendant complained at the hearing that Agent Balance analyzed handoff data for the 7 minutes prior to the phone powering off at 2:54 a.m. on November 13th, but did not provide an opinion about what his analysis showed. Thus, defendant wants to exclude any opinion as to what his analysis of those 7 minutes showed. However, as pointed out in Agent Balance's rebuttal disclosure, page 13 of the cast report sets forth the data Agent Balance relied upon to opine that defendant's phone used a certain tower and sector at 2:47 a.m. southeast of his apartment and ceased communication with the network at 2:54. He also explains that the location of a device is best estimated by the initial cell site versus the handoff cell site. He will be allowed to testify to these opinions. If defendant believes Agent Balance strays beyond these opinions, he can object and the court will take the matter up then.
All right. Anything to discuss here?
Well, it sounds like Hippler is protecting Balance, but I'm failing to understand. Is he limiting what they can ask Balance in the hearing, or is he preventing them from even questioning him now?
Well, it's permitted. It's prohibited in front of the jury to start with. He gave her the option to do this to impeach Balance, but it's without jury's presence. Okay, unless something comes out of what she impeaches him on, and then they can take it in front of the jury. From my understanding, we'll see. I have seen people split both directions, that they believe that Balance is going to come forth and he's going to claim that he did what he did. I have also heard other people say that they don't believe he's going to say anything at all, that he's going to have. I have no idea what you're saying. I can't give you an opinion on my end because I could see it both ways too. So outside of the jury, she's allowed to question him. If something comes from that questioning, then he'll bring it back in front of the jury. I don't know. I feel
But this document isn't going to affect what she's allowed to ask in that hearing when she tries to impeach him?
Not that I know. I mean, she clearly said she definitely wants to impeach him on more than quite a few things. She said so. That tells me, there's going to be a bit of a grueling testimony on that. Well, grueling questioning session in that point.
Well, I mean, I don't see Balance coming clean unless they waive some pretty serious proof, unless they can basically demonstrate to him that it's going to come out one way or the other because we have it and we're going to release it and it will be made public. But I mean, I don't think he has any problem, or I don't think any of the FBI involved in this case have any problem getting on the stand and lying through their teeth,
well,
as long as they feel they're going to be protected.
Well, here's the thing, though. I stated this the other day. I said, I don't, and I think some of you guys agreed with me. I don't think Ann is going to ask a question that she doesn't already have an answer to. I just don't. And I don't believe, based on the strategy I think she's using, I don't believe she's going to make a statement out there that she doesn't have proof to support. So as she goes at him and the way she was asked saying that she wanted to impeach him, the way she seemed as though she wanted to question him, I'm pretty sure she's ready for this.
She seemed pretty pleased with the result.
Yes.
As if she had the goods.
Very confident.
But Hitler seems pretty confident that he can just block everything and shut it all down. And it seems like the fix is in. I personally think that Ann Taylor needs a miracle here, and she needs to.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I agree.
She needs to expose him. She needs to impeach this guy. She needs to get something tossed. She needs to get Jennings disbarred. Barring any of that happening, if this goes to trial without any sort of Hail Mary victory for the defense, I think it's just going to be Delphi all over again.
And I agree with you. And I'm waiting to see because I feel like, I don't know, I had some kind of a strong confidence emanating from Ann this last hearing. And I feel like there's something she may have here that she's overly confident with. That tells me she's going to bring that when she gets the opportunity to do this. I don't see any way for them to get out of that if she has what we believe could be strong evidence in the aspect that when she goes to him and says, hey, did you do this? And I have a feeling she's going to turn around and say, when he says, I have no idea what you're talking about, and she's going to show it to him, there's your physical proof. And then you can't back out of this. He's going to have no choice.
Well, she seemed very confident, and also Jennings seemed very nervous. And in Jennings' rebuttal, when you analyze exactly what her speech was, exactly what she was saying, her denial technically wasn't a denial. It was only a denial that she was involved. It wasn't. She wasn't saying, these things I don't know that they exist. I didn't see them. I don't have them.
Yes, bingo. Once again, we have another pawn in the case here, and that very well could work. Okay, Balance could have had this situation and never handed it over to Ashley. I want to say I believe that, but that can be proved. That can be proven. Okay. Either way, it's. I think if nothing else, it's going to say that Balance did have the material, and then at that point, you're going to have to roll it forward. Okay, you're going to have to present it to the jury and say, hey, here it is. Here's the timing advance data. They did have it. I'm sure some stupid excuse is going to be, oh, I thought I gave it to her, or I maybe I misunderstood that I didn't give it, something stupid like that. You guys know how this stuff goes. It can't be trial by ambush. I know that, but at the same time, this is what the whole point in this is. Maybe there's going to be some form of a misunderstanding that's going to come into play in this. I absolutely feel that way strongly. So what happens? I don't know, you guys. This is just my feelings on what I think I could see happening. So I don't know. Eddie, any thoughts on that at all?
No, I pretty much agree with everything that's been said so far. I've been wondering, so if Ann Taylor gets to question Special Agent Balance, but not in front of the jury, I'm wondering if that would even be public, if we would be privy to that.
We may get a transcript later on, but I doubt it.
I doubt it too. Not in real time.
And I don't even know about the transcript. Other than the fact that if something comes from that, they may present it in front of the jury for the trial. We may see that, but at what cost or at what point? You know what I mean? So I don't know. She supposedly has a few emails between Jennings and Balance and somebody else, I believe. Supposedly they have those emails. If that's the truth, and the defense has these emails and they clearly state, "Hey, we have your data here," what the hell else can you say?
You know, and this brings us back to the Franks hearing when they spent so much time on both days establishing that they are working in tandem. They are as one. The FBI and the Moscow Police Department. There is no distinction between them. There is no separation of offices. They're in each other's presence. They had a lot of time making sure that that was on the record. And then notice, you know, we covered a little bit of DT and SG's interview from last night. Notice how they're trying to break that argument down, and notice how that was interjected in that, how there was a part in there where SG was trying to, you know, make sure the narrative of the Moscow Police Department is in no way aware. You know, it's like two separate, you know, these guys do one thing and the other guys don't know what they're doing, and then this team is doing this investigation and they're two separate. And notice that like that fix is kind of in play.
Definitely.
So yeah, but
okay, so Phil just said that, and that's a good point, Phil. I forgot about that, Boyd Dyer. She can impeach Balance in a camera of Boyd Dyer, then the prosecution can act accordingly at that point, which that's probably what's going to happen if that happens that way. Thank you for bringing that up. Very good point.
Just to summarize, Jesse's point is right. Jennings is certainly trying to, you know, she said it in a very specific way, like the state has no awareness of such a thing, trying to hide behind the shield of the FBI.
Didn't she specifically refer to herself like I? I thought it was like I have no knowledge of this kind of thing.
I believe, yeah.
It could be, yeah. Whether she refers to herself as, you know, the state.
Because the way I remember it, the state, if she referred to the state, that sort of encompasses, you know, everybody, right? But I thought it was what really caught my attention was when she specifically referred to herself, like trying to distance herself, not distance Bill Thompson. Right. You know, that was telling. Like she should have been saying the state. That would have made sense. But I think she said I have no knowledge of this. I have not seen these timing reports. I don't know where they are. And that to me sounds like a kid with half a cookie in his hand saying, I didn't eat the cookies, you know?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's see here. You want me to pick it up now? Where
sure.
We're at? No, wait a minute. Here. How far down did you get? Right. Okay, you dropped right there. So we're going to start off with Heather and Jared Barnhart.
Yes.
Okay, so the Barnharts are digital specialists with Celebrite who were retained by law enforcement to analyze the defendant's cell phone and PC to determine user behavior and actions. They are disclosed to opine that the gaps in data on the two devices were abnormal. Attached to the disclosures is a report jointly authored by the Barnharts detailing their analysis and findings. Their CVs were provided as well. Defendant argues that the disclosures indicate they will testify to habit evidence, which he complains is not explained, is not accompanied by any opinions. Defendant's challenge is confusing. Sorry, excuse me. Nowhere to do the disclosures or report indicate the Barnharts will testify about habit evidence. Rather, the disclosures state they will testify to their findings pertaining to the defendant's activities on his PC and cell phone for a period of time before and after the homicide, and why gaps in data over time periods are abnormal. The Barnhart's opinions regarding these topics are fully set forth in their joint report. For example, they observed gaps in dependent school PC that may be consistent with cleaning up. Did I miss a footnote in here somewhere? Maybe not. Anyway, okay. Or using anti forensic methods to clear evidence. Repeat page 1, report page 1. Among the gaps found were in the PC's event logs and system resource using monitoring between November 11th of 22 and November 16th of 22, which Barnhart's opined was abnormal given that school was in session. Likewise, they located gaps in the PC's Chrome history during dates where downloads occurred on the system, indicating the user was private browsing or clearing browsing history. Together, the Barnhart's disclosures and joint reports set forth all the that is required to. Where's it at? Required by. 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. My granddaughter's in the background yelling. So, were found in the PC's logs. Where did I drop off at here? Hold on. During dates where downloads occurred on the system, indicating the user was private browsing or clearing browsing history. Together, the Barnhart disclosures and joint report set forth all that is required by ICR 16.7b, and there is no basis to exclude or limit their testimony. Okay, hold on a second here. What? Okay, so Michael Douglas. Mr. Douglas is a forensic accountant for the FBI. Or did you guys want to discuss anything with that one real quick? Or are we good?
So they're kind of like attacking his behavior online behavior. It feels like
they're basically making it look like he was trying to erase things and system restore and get rid of certain things in the system. In my opinion, that's how I'm taking this.
Do any of you other computer illiterates out there like myself, like sometimes it's like it seems like your PC or whatever is acting slowly, so you start YouTubing around or even checking things out online, like how do I like clear up more space? Yeah. How do I get more of these gigabytes freed up? And then there's all kinds of suggestions out there. And it's like, well, you need to clear your browsing history and you need to take these actions, right? And so you start doing that. And does it help? I don't know. But I now and again, and I do it so infrequently that I forget how to do it. So I have to relearn it all over every single time I do it. But I wonder if any of his activity is just this type of behavior, like this dang thing just isn't working right? It's kind of needing to speed up.
Defragging or clearing out the cache and stuff. Yeah, absolutely, it could be. Absolutely. Be. Clearing your browsing history. How many people clear their browsing history, guys? It's not an abnormal thing, okay?
Right.
Especially if you're out here and you're on the computer, you want to keep things running smoothly. I've been told and reminded to clear my cache and stuff like that because I do get slow running days and stuff. So yeah, of course. And the guy works where he's grading papers, looking things up. He's going to school and working in the system. So, I mean, it would make some sense. That's all I'm saying.
I wonder if this guy's going to look at the Dylan Mortenson's phone to see what she was deleting.
100%. 100%. And what pictures and videos was she editing and changing and so on and so forth based on what we heard last night? So yeah, agreed.
Here's a funny story about myself that I'll share real briefly. Guy is laughing about YouTubing around. Guys, when this case started, and I never knew true crime on YouTube existed, so I was like watching in fascination. I always thought YouTube was for watching like music videos and maybe repair videos. So I had to YouTube on how to YouTube. Like, how do these people get on? How are they doing that? There's no way for me to achieve what they're doing. There's got to be secret. So yeah, I was YouTubing around. I had to YouTube and learn how to YouTube. True story.
How many years ago was this, Eddie? Please tell me it was like at least 10.
It was the beginning of the case.
Wow. I thought
Yeah,
you were an expert. Here I am thinking you were the expert.
far from it.
I jumped into this the same way. I'm still illiterate to some extremes.
Oh, I'm completely illiterate when it comes to deleting my browser history and everything else, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at navigating YouTube and finding the information I need to find. I mean, I made it here, didn't I?
Yeah, right.
Found you guys.
I think we've all grown and learned together over the past couple of years with all this. So yeah. SRB said I also got to say that if I had made a purchase and then did a bad deed with said purchase, I probably would have gotten rid of it long before using said item. I mean, you think? Yeah. And many other things, especially with his knowledge within this world. First off, I can't imagine that somebody that's going to use a weapon such as in a crime like this is going to go purchase it somewhere they know that is very easily accessible. You would think they would go look for it on a, buy sell trade play site or just something that they don't even have to purchase. I just don't understand this. But okay.
You
Welcome,
can
Mike.
walk into a military surplus store and purchase something like this with no ID, no credit card, pay cash money.
Yeah.
You could be wearing a hoodie and a ball cap with a overgrown beard, walk into a military surplus store, hand the guy $60 and walk out with a K-bar, no problem.
100%. So why would you go put your whole life out there to the whole world on Amazon, purchase it, then go back and try to delete it and repurchase another one? It doesn't make sense. This man's not stupid, you guys.
I think the funniest part is when they say he tried to purchase a replacement, it was all just too complicated for him. He got halfway through and he just, this is overwhelming. I can't figure it out.
100%. Like Chris said, you could have got it, and you're absolutely right too. From a gun or a gun and knife show or anywhere, a flea market, guys, anywhere but online where the whole world can get in and see what you did. It makes no sense. Absolutely, Dan. Absolutely absurd. So yeah.
It's a logical fallacy, Danger Zone.
It's hurting our logical brains. Exactly, Dan. Exactly. Unreal. So Mr. Douglas is a forensic accountant for the FBI and is disclosed to testify to financial transaction data for defendant, the 4 victims and 2 other roommates. His initial disclosure identifies by category and date range the financial transaction data he intends to testify to and appends. Mr. Douglas's report of specific transactions found within these individuals' financial data. His supplemental disclosure identifies more specifically the financial data associated with defendant that he intends to discuss, and also identifies video evidence obtained showing the defendant's ATM withdrawals. Okay. See, and that's something else right there. If this is in relation to a weapon or anything like that, if they're claiming he ordered this online, what the hell do ATM withdrawals have to do with any of that other stuff? Okay, or anything else for that matter?
Maybe this is what Steve G was talking about. His shopping habits. If he was in the same plaza as Kate, he happened to be near a grocery store that Kaylee was purchasing a bag of hot dogs at, and if he didn't buy something, he's guilty of stalking because he was in the area, which is
Sure.
It requires a little bit too many leaps, I think.
Bingo. Agreed. Reality stream, welcome. Thank you for joining us. It is a big circle jerk, Tomboy. I agree. His knife could have been stolen, or he could have sold or traded it. Proves literally nothing. I still think it could have been a Father's Day gift, just right with what Miss Potts thinks because of when it was purchased and the way it was purchased with the sharpener and everything. That would have been a great Father's Day gift to give to his father. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I'd be real curious to see Michael say, yeah, I own a knife too, just like that my son bought for me for Father's Day a couple of years. That'd be real interesting to see how the prosecution responded to that. But anyway, And he never left the state of Pennsylvania. Is the rest of that? Just saying.
Isn't the knife still vaguely, described in a very vague manner? They don't say he purchased a sheath with a USMC logo.
No,
They call it a K bar, not the K bar.
right,
Um,
AR,
not
right,
they don't say a K bar meaning fitting the description of the alleged weapon. It's just a very vague description of we believe the K bar was the weapon that was used, and he bought a K bar, and that's really what I've seen in the documents. I'd
mm-hmm.
like to see, exactly what Tara's saying. Was it? They don't describe it, and when you're describing evidence, you go over and above
Yes,
with
sir.
descriptors and how it meets it's exactly it meets it exactly. You don't just throw it vague out there like this, we think the guy used a gun and this guy had a gun. No, you say it was a 42 Magnum with I don't know too much. I don't know enough about
I know
guns
what
to
you're saying. No,
get deeper into it, but you give all the descriptors you have, right down to the color, the weight, the handle, everything,
right.
everything that you can.
And that's the thing, guys. I mean, I pulled up 4 or 5, maybe 6, I think total, different variations of K-bar, and not one of them had the USMC stamp on it. So they're being very vague, okay, when it comes to that. So I want to know, is that what he purchased? Did it say that? Because it doesn't say that it says that. That's something else that I have a problem with. So, and that's another thing too, is it says again, like she said, someone purchased a knife. It's never been specific to who on a family account. So there's that too. I don't believe a guy who is aware of cloud forensics doesn't understand that his Amazon history would be saved server side, regardless of bingo. That's what I've been screaming. That doesn't make any sense. This is what he does. He knows all this stuff. So why would he just go out there and blatantly do this? That's so stupid to me. So anyway.
And bring his phone, except for the few times that Steve G is claiming he was stalking them without his phone, which
Right.
makes no sense whatsoever.
None. He just chose a couple times to just not have his phone with him. Right. Okay. Sure. You got me on that one. Makes no sense. The defendant contends that Mr. Douglas should not be able to offer any opinions because none are expressed in his disclosure. Specifically, the defendant notes that Mr. Douglas's supplemental disclosure indicates he will testify to an analysis of defendant's spending habits. Defendant takes issue with this, arguing there is no spending habit opinion in disclosed. However, Mr. Douglas's disclosure makes clear that he is intended as a fact witness and is only being disclosed as an expert in the event the court determines his testimony was based on specialized knowledge under IRE 702. Moreover, although the supplemental disclosure appears to indicate he will offer an opinion as the defendant's spending habits and his testimony will be limited to factual changes in how the defendant spent money. For example, the disclosure notes defendant only conducted ATM withdrawals on and after the date of the homicide and ceased using his debit card after November 10th of 22, whereas prior to November 10th, he had regularly used his debit card. There's no indication he will attempt to opine about the reasons for the spending changes. Sorry, you guys. Did I miss number 11 up here somewhere? I don't see it. I might have looked right past it.
Oh, number 11 is right there by the bold print where it says D, Michael Douglas.
And that says again, the state submitted 2 disclosures for Mr. Douglas, initial disclosures S7 on December 18th of 24 and amended supplemental disclosure S2 March 14th of 25. Sorry about that, guys. No indication he will attempt to opine about the reasons for the spending changes, just that they occurred. And number 12 must be down here. Without more, the court has concerns about the relevance of this testimony, but defendant has not challenged it on this basis yet. Okay.
So this is December 10th, they're saying?
December 18th. No,
I'm just trying to figure out how much time passed between
November
his
10th.
ATM. November 10th, and
November
he
10th.
wasn't arrested until December.
Right.
And they're claiming he didn't use his ATM for that long?
That's what they're saying.
I mean, he would have needed some money for things. So what, was he using a credit?
I don't
like-
believe that though, because he went to Albertsons the day after, did he? Or did he not?
Yeah,
Unless-
he was
Well, I
there
mean-
on the same day.
And the same
He would
day.
have had to have spent money. So I mean, did
Unless
he go and withdraw $3,000 cash to get him through until December?
I mean, it's possible, but yeah, right. There's a good point right there. Very interesting. Okay. Well, if BK while shopping in Moscow, God damn it with this thing, was stalking anyone, then I am stalking Dago because I've watched this channel more than 12 times in the last 3 months. Good to know. Thank you, Gaia. We'll talk about stalking.
I'm
thing
still
later.
trying to wrap my head around what they're trying to say with
It
the
doesn't
ATM card.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. To me,
Like he
but-
brought his phone with him when he committed the crime, but he's going to stop using his ATM card to cover his tracks, but he's still going to carry his phone with him, and they're not really looking for ATM withdrawals
right.
in Pullman. How does that make any sense?
So it doesn't. Prior to November 10th, he regularly used it. There is no indication that he will attempt to opine about the reasons for spending changes. They just that they occurred. Maybe, I don't know. But I don't think that means that he killed somebody at all, in my opinion.
So he's
Well, I
just
mean,
gonna suggest
he clearly
theories.
didn't go 2 months without spending any money.
No.
I mean, a guy's got to eat. A guy's got to put gas in his car. I mean, he traveled across the country.
He also got a haircut. He also went shopping more than once. So I mean, yeah, he did. Did he, like you said, did he pull out $3,000 worth of cash? I don't think so. But they're talking about his ATM withdrawals there. Maybe that's what they're referring to.
Maybe he just moved from withdrawing from ATMs to using his credit card, or you just using it, not withdrawing cash, but using his card for electronic purchases, and how that's relevant to anything. I mean, cash would be more. You think you'd want to use cash more than your card if that was the case. If
Yeah,
you're trying to hide something.
or just not purchase anything other than absolute necessities. There's another one. So yeah,
With cash.
Yeah, you would not definitely want to put yourself in the system. So
I mean, if he actually did withdraw a large sum of cash and then have no transactions for 2 months, that might suggest an attempt to hide something. But
And
if
it
he
would
just was simply using his card instead of using cash,
Mhm.
that doesn't seem to support anything.
No, not at all. Not at all. E would be Shane Cox. The state submitted 2 disclosures for Mr. Cox, initial disclosures S5 on December 18th, and the amended supplemental disclosure S1 on March 3rd. But no, Mr. Cox is a litigation and regulatory manager for Amazon.com. His initial disclosure states that Mr. Cox will testify to the content of documents produced by Amazon to law enforcement pertaining to an Amazon account associated with the defendant. The documents include the order history between January 5th of 22 and January 13th of 22, or I'm sorry, January 5th of 22 and December 13th of 22, and click history and sign-in history for specific dates in that time frame. And no, that wouldn't make a difference, I guess. I'm thinking out loud. Sorry, guys. January 5th, and click history and sign-in history for specific dates in that time frame. The documents are referenced by Bates number. His supplemental disclosure identifies with specificity the facts Mr. Cox will be testifying to from the identified documents. Somebody said in here the other day that he's not qualified to do this, but so be it. Form of the identified documents. Okay. As with this challenge to Mr. Douglas, defendant asserts that Mr. Cox should not be able to offer opinion because none are expressed in his disclosures. Defendant also asserts in the notion that Mr. Cox's testimony should not be allowed because, according to defense expert David Howell, far more information must be reviewed in order to attribute specific activity to to a specific person or otherwise render an opinion about user behavior with forensic certainty. This argument was addressed and rejected by the court in its order memorializing oral rulings on motions in limine, page 7-8, April 18th of 25, and will not be reiterated here. Number 15. The state submitted only a rebuttal disclosure for Detective Gilbertson. S7, February 17th to 25. Okay. So that part there, visual motor. Okay. As with this challenge, Mr. Douglas, defendant, asserts that Mr. Cox should not be able to offer. Okay, we went there already. Sorry. Darren Gilbertson. Once again, the state submitted only a rebuttal disclosure for Detective Gilbertson. February 17th to 25. Defendant disclosed expert opinions from Brent Turvey that more than one assailant was necessary to accomplish the crime in the time frame alleged. Specifically, he asserts that there is direct and indirect evidence. So this is the one I wanted to talk about. There is direct and indirect evidence that attempts were made by the suspect to clean up the crime scene after the homicide, which would have taken far longer than the time interval alleged by the state. And 2, there were multiple weapons used against Kaylee Goncalves, and Xana and Ethan appeared to have been attacked at the same time.
Can I reread that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I was reading it to myself previously, and I had to read it twice to make sure that I understood it.
Yeah, right. Go ahead, please.
Number 2, there were multiple weapons used against Kaylee and Xana. No, I'm sorry. There was multiple weapons used against Kaylee, and Xana and Ethan appeared to have been attacked at the same time. So did you all catch that, the way it breaks down? Multiple weapons used against Kaylee. That's one individual thought. And Xana and Ethan appeared to have been attacked at the same time.
Right there. Stop.
Do y'all agree with that? Do I have that right? I think I have it right.
Yeah, because of the way the periods and everything are. So yeah, there's 2 separate statements. So
yeah, because otherwise it would read, and you'd be reading it wrong if you kind of blended, multiple weapons are used against Kaylee and Xana.
Right.
But that's not what it's saying. It's multiple weapons were used against Kaylee, which is interesting.
Which means that multiple weapons could be Koberger or anybody, unless you're a damn ninja flinging knives like this. No. Okay. So there's 2 people in there with multiple weapons, in my opinion. And then at the same time, we also have that being stated that Xana and Ethan were attacked at the same time, which would bring on more than one person as well. Okay. So I'm going to go with at least 2 people, multiple weapons, and at least 2 people.
Forgive me for being dumb, guys, but is this the disclosure of the defense's expert, what they're going to offer as their theory?
Defense disclosed expert opinions from Brent Turvey that more than one assailant was necessary to accomplish the crime in the time frame alleged. I'm guessing that's part of it, yeah. And then they gave his specifics that there is direct and indirect evidence that attempts were made by the suspect to clean up the crime scene after the homicides. Okay, so we have that.
Okay. There's multiple attempts at cleaning the crime scene.
More than one. So, and then it also says there were multiple weapons used against Kaylee Goncalves, and Xana and Ethan appeared to have been attacked at the same time. Period. So,
And Brian's only got 8 minutes in the house, and he's apparently punching Kaylee in the face, using multiple weapons and cleaning up after himself, and taking care of 4 people.
all in 9 minutes, Jesse. That dude's like a superhero.
I mean, the 9 minutes, that includes time to get to and from his car, right? So, I mean,
yeah. How possible?
So, like,
Jesus.
yeah.
More insanity.
Should I continue on?
Go ahead, bud.
Okay. Through his other expert, Rachel Orr, defendant has also submitted evidence that he suffers from developmental coordination disorder, which has resulted in deficits in fine motor dexterity and visual motor function. His attorneys have argued in other motions that these deficits render it not possible for Mr. Kober to have acted with the speed and coordination required to commit the crimes in the time frame alleged by the state. However, this has not been disclosed as an opinion of any of defendant's experts. In rebuttal, the state disclosed Detective Darren Gilbertson, a lead investigator for ISP in this case. The disclosure indicates he will testify that he and other investigators conducted timed runs at 1122 King Road to gain an understanding of the approximate time needed to have carried out the homicides. A report of the timed runs is attached to his disclosure. It was performed to determine if one person could carry out the homicides. By the way, I should note, as per their theory, I'm just interjecting that. Anyway, reading on. His opinion will be that depending on the suspect's pace and route, he could have carried out the crimes in an approximate 2 to 4 minutes.
Right. Okay.
Defendant argues Detective Gilbertson's testimony should be excluded because, 1, the state has failed to disclose how Detective Gilbertson is an expert in timed runs. 2, the relevance is minimal. 3, important data, including recordings, photographs, and notes of the experiment, were not disclosed. And 4, his opinion carries a risk of juror confusion and prejudice. On the prejudice issue, defendant claims that Detective Gilbertson was already familiar with the house when he did the experiment, and additionally, the house had been vacated. Defendant also notes the house has been torn down, so he is not able to conduct his own tests. Whether Detective Gilbertson's opinions are relevant will depend on what Mr. Turvey and Dr. Orr opine at trial. Footnote 16. The court has indicated in a separate order that there is no foundation at this point for defendant's assertion that his deficits in fine motor dexterity and visual motor function rendered it difficult or impossible for him to commit the crimes. See order on state's motion in limine regarding neuropsychological and psychiatric evidence, April 18th, 2025.
Right.
While Dr. Turvey does not specifically state in his report that one assailant could not have accomplished the murders in the short time frame alleged by the state, he infers as much through his opinion that there was evidence of cleanup efforts at the crime scene, which would have taken a significantly longer period of time. Further, while Dr. Orr's report does not opine as to what deficits in fine motor dexterity and visual motor function defendant suffers from, to the extent she testifies to these deficits at trial, it may render Detective Gilbertson's opinions relevant to rebut any inference that defendant could not have single-handedly committed the crimes in less than 15 minutes. Further, given Detective Gilbertson's role as lead detective for ISP in the investigation, he is well qualified to offer his opinion on suspected movement throughout a crime scene. In addition, there does not appear to be a disclosure violation due to the lack of underlying data. It was a simple experiment consisting of timing Detective Gilbertson moving through the house at a slower speed and a faster speed. His routes were described as well as his pauses to simulate the number of stab wounds each autopsy showed. It does not appear there are any photographs or recording or any other data not already described therein. As for defendants' IRE 403 concerns, they are baseless. The state represents that there were no structural changes to the house when Detective Gilbertson performed his experiments. The fact that it was vacated or that Detective Gilbertson was familiar with the home, which would presumably allow him to conduct a faster timed run, is fodder for cross-examination, not exclusion. The state further notes that defendants stipulated to the house being torn down after Detective Gilbertson's report was disclosed. Thus, any concern of prejudice in this regard in his own doing. Finally, the defendant cites no basis for jury confusion. Consequently, Detective Gilbertson's disclosed testimony will not be excluded or limited at this time.
Any thoughts?
I have a
gentlemen?
question, you guys.
Yes.
So Brian went to a doctor's appointment the day after the crime. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
And we're bringing up his dexterity issues now.
And, I think we've all wondered
So,
the same thing. Yeah.
so what I want to know is why is the state not subpoenaing that doctor, and why is Ann Taylor not? You think both sides should want that doctor to testify to what that doctor knows. If that doctor saw him the day after the crime, Ann Taylor should want that doctor to come in and say, well, I didn't see any damage to his hands. I didn't see any visible injuries throughout his body. Oh, by the way, he's got these dexterity issues. In my professional opinion as a physician, he's not capable of committing these crimes. He's slow. He's not very coordinated. He's not very, he's not a capable individual to do that. And the
Right.
state, on the other hand, should want to bring him in for the exact opposite reasons. Maybe did he have any damage on his body or his hands?
Yeah.
And the fact that the state doesn't want him in, that kind of makes sense because clearly he doesn't have anything to offer them. But the defense should want him in.
At the very at the very least, because that the doctor himself can say, yeah, he had bruises on his right hand, he had this, he had scratches on his neck, so on and so forth. And I would imagine, well, I don't know that she hasn't subpoenaed him to be there yet for sure, and that may come still. I don't know, but
I mean, it seems like he has to be there. You'd think that the jury has to hear that he went to a doctor's appointment the next day, because that is certainly not typical behavior of somebody who just committed a heinous crime to go to their doctor and get
agreed.
checked out.
Yep, that's agreed. That's agreed. Let's see, what do we have left here? All right, I'm going to read the rest of this bottom one, and then we're going to have to call it quits for today right now because I have some stuff I got to go get done. We've been here 3.5 hours. The ISP forensic lab scientists, footnote 17. The experts in this category specifically were referenced by defendant are Catherine Dace White, Taylor Mychak, Tara Martinez, Jade Miller, Ann Nord, and Eric Seat, Tina Waltill, Stephanie Wilt, and Haley Youngland. The analysis herein applies equally to defendants' challenges raised for the first time in his reply brief to forensic toxologist from NMS Labs. Daniel Anderson, Exhibit X1, December 18th to 24, and Chelsea Deischer, Exhibit S6, December 18th to 24. The state disclosed several forensic scientists from the ISP lab, forensics lab, to testify as experts in this case. The initial disclosure for each scientist describes the subject matter the expert will discuss, including the particular evidence and testing performed. The disclosures also reference each scientist's specific lab report by Bates number. In each disclosure, the state includes the following caveat. This disclosure is provided as an aid. It does not encompass all findings, impressions, conclusions, or materials related to the expert's involvement in this case. It further does not in any way limit the scope of any expert's testimony. Further, this expert may testify about findings, impressions, and or conclusions that he or she drew from the work of other experts who previously examined or handled the evidence in question. After defendant moved to compel more complete disclosures, the court advised the state to supplement accordingly. On March 3rd of 25, the state did so largely by expounding upon the general subject matter of the experts' respective work. Sorry about that. For example, where the initial disclosure stated the expert would testify generally about the collection of DNA, the supplemental disclosures include far more detail about the collection process. Where are we at here? Defendant now moves to limit scientist testimony in the state's case in chief to their lab reports. This limitation is not necessary if the scientists testify to something that is not disclosed in their disclosures or lab reports. Defendant can object at trial. There is no basis to prospectively limit their testimony now. Okay. Any thoughts, gentlemen, before we break this down for today? With what we've read so far, there's more here, quite a bit actually. But we're good for right now. I might do this later on tonight, but for right now, I gotta go get some stuff done. So, any thoughts, Eddie or Jesse at all on this? What we just that last piece?
I'm going to defer to Eddie.
Oh, I just see a pattern here. It's, you can cross-examine them. They're all going to be allowed to testify to their opinions at trial. It's pretty much painting with a broad brushstroke, but I think that's what we're finding here throughout many of these.
Yeah, well, yeah. Agreed. And we also have Gary Dawson and Lawrence Mowry, Jeffrey Tenzel. Yeah, so there's a bit more. We can come back here either later or tomorrow and hit until we get through these, because like I said, a lot of this stuff is pretty interesting and it needs to be put out there and to be understood. So Eddie, thank you as always for joining me, bud, and for being able to relate to this. And Jesse, I always love hearing your thoughts and prayers, or thoughts and feelings and opinions on this. Not prayers, sorry, bud. And as we end with this for the day, did you either two of you gentlemen have any thoughts about all this in general, all the way so far?
Just what I said already. It feels like Anne needs something big, because if without something big, I think Hitler is going to direct this trial to be Delphi 2.0. I think most of the chat seems to agree with that. Sounds like Eddie agrees with that.
Agreed.
And I hope to hell she's got something big up her sleeve.
I agree.
I do too.
Musical Contessa has a good question. Do you think the state of Idaho will completely throw Coroner under the bus? No, she's been fed the narrative. She's done her part too. She's going to testify to what she's already said.
And then she was put out of the picture. You haven't seen nor heard nothing about or from her since then, too, which is interesting to me. She's not interviewed with anybody. She's not done anything. I feel like she stated what she was supposed to state, and she's done until come the trial, per se, maybe, It'll
be interesting to see if she'll be called as a witness.
That's what I'm looking and relating to right now. Yeah, I'm looking towards and relating to in that point. Thank you, Gaia, very much.
I wonder if Veena Singh.
Say again.
Veena Singh is the medical examiner in Washington.
Oh
What's the-
yeah,
Spokane, was it?
I think Spokane. Yes,
I wonder if she'll
that would be interesting
have
too.
to. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Imagine that the defense, at the very least, would call all of these people for, to explain injuries and so on and so forth in regards to the fact that Brian couldn't have committed these because of his physical issues that he deals with, possibly. You know what I'm saying? I think that there's somebody's going to have to take the stand to explain how these injuries occurred, and then they're going to in turn bring up dyspraxia with Brian and say, okay, so somebody that has dyspraxia, that has issues with this, and this, committed this crime by doing this, and this. Explain how that's possible. You know what I mean? I think that's going to be coming. I do.
Didn't Hitler rule that they're not allowed to use his autism spectrum unless he testifies?
I think that one, yes, but I don't know that dyspraxia is categorized. Still,
That's a separate issue, the dyspraxia.
I'm hoping that Anne is able to separate those two, because I think the dyspraxia is more important than the autism is, because it prohibits physicality with certain things. You know what I'm saying? And would make it more understandable that he couldn't have committed this as compared to the autism spectrum disorder being just a mental neurological issue.
What
I
if Ann
wonder if
Taylor?
she,
Go
I
ahead.
wonder if she could get around that by bringing in that doctor, the general practitioner or whatever,
Yeah,
and under the guise that she's just going to ask him if he had any injuries, and in your opinion, does he look like you'd expect a guy to look if he'd been involved in an altercation or whatever?
that
And
would
then
be
the guy, that let the doctor sort of run wild and say, well, I mean, he's got a condition that would prevent him from even being able to do that.
that would be amazing. Yeah, because that would definitely set it up for what they need. And not to mention bringing in another testimony from the barber. Brian went and had a haircut the day after, or the day after that.
I think all those people need to come in and testify as witnesses.
Every one of them, yes, sir. I mean,
His students from his from his classes need to come in and say, did you see any wounds on him? Did he have a black eye? Did he have any scratches? Did he have any scuffed knuckles or any damages to his hands?
Right. He went back to school to work. He went to get a haircut, went to the doctor. Every one of these people, a barber cuts your hair. If you got scratches on your head, your face, your neck, all of that needs to be testified to. The man didn't have any of these marks on it. How did this happen? You know what I mean? So yeah, all of that is important, I think, and should be brought to question. How do you all like the new judge? Does he seem to be worse or better? Worse. Definitely worse, in my opinion, Noni. Good to see you, by the way. It's wonderful to have you back.
That's an interesting question, Nani, because my opinion on that is people have short memories. It's all the same. We were experiencing the same foul play with Judge, but people don't remember it that way. It's kind of funny. It's like, it reminds me of, if only we were back in Egypt, back in slavery. It's too bad we were.
I don't
freed from
remember
our
Judge
bondage.
Judge actually opining on things the way that, and inserting himself in his opinions, though. His perhaps his rulings were similar, Eddie, but his demeanor. It feels like Hitler is even more destructive based on him adding his 2 cents every time, and his 2 cents seems to be just directly from the PCA, or he almost reiterating the state's point of view as if that's the fact, and then adding more strategy to this. Well, and by the way, the state might choose to do this. Wink, wink.
Right. Yeah.
No,
right.
I agree, and I think part of it is due to the intensity. We're coming towards the end, in the intensity and the amount of rulings and involvement in orders by the judge are coming into play too. So that we're experiencing that effect as well.
And it's way more evident in this case that Hitler does not want any involvement in this. Judge seemed a little perturbed, but Hitler he's clearly stated it too. But again, he's just blatantly avoiding factual pieces of information when Cy Ray's affidavit got brought up, all he could go right back to was the whole 7 days thing, which has no bearing on this whatsoever, and completely avoids the actual situation and goes into something that has no link to this whatsoever.
It's almost like he's arguing a separate argument. It's
Agreed. Yeah.
it's the I don't again another logical fallacy. You take up an argument that the person wasn't actually bringing. I don't know if that's the straw man argument or if there's another word for that, but yeah, I mean Hitler's responses a lot of times are refusing to acknowledge what the topic is even. And not only that, he seems rather uneducated about the case. He's getting names wrong, places wrong. This guy hasn't got a clue what's going on in the case.
I've never seen a judge that has like zero information about a case that he's sitting right in front of him. He did not read up on it. He did not anything, which tells me, like, in a sense, he didn't have to, because he's just playing a part right now at this point and just has to play it through.
I know.
And then he goes ahead and recites the PCA as fact.
Yep.
Dale, I know you got to go quick, but one last thought. We were talking about
sure,
Coroner Mabutt moments ago, and final thought on her is, beyond the condition of the bodies, I wonder if Ann Taylor is going to question her about the condition of the crime scene. Like, did she, directly ask her, did she witness any signs of a cleanup?
That's a good point. That would be a great question to ask her. If she
it's easy to rattle her. You can.
Yeah.
You can tell she'll say one thing, but you can tell that you got her.
She's definitely loose at the corners. You know what I'm saying? It'd be easy to break her apart. And yeah, that would be a great point and a great thing to do. Based on Ann's strategy at this point, I'm definitely comfortable with her, guys. And I repeatedly keep saying this. I do not see Ann questioning anyone without having an answer to that question, making a statement without having proof of the statement, or leading into something without knowing exactly which direction it's going already. She's ahead of everything, in my opinion. I think we're going to continue to see that. I hope.
I just hope Hitler actually lets her cross-examine the witnesses as she needs to do. I mean, is she actually going to get a chance to go hard at Dylan and Bethany, or is he going to run cover for them? Because
I agree with you. I hope.
To me, the whole 911 call and the cover up that in that respect, if you're looking for reasonable doubt, that to me that 911 call situation, the roommate situation, is enough reasonable doubt if it gets out appropriately, if all the information gets out. But if Hitler stops them from, this isn't relevant and that's not relevant, it doesn't matter, she added a contact to her phone, then it'll prevent that from happening. But
right,
I would like to think that any responsible juror, knowing what we know about that 911 call, that would be enough to say, listen, I can't put a guy on death row for this crime, knowing that something bigger is going on here. Whether I think he's involved, because that's the fact of the matter. Is reasonable doubt means you think he might be involved, but you're not sure how or why. That's reasonable doubt, right? That's
yeah.
Thanks again, Daigle, for having me up again today.
No worries. We might, is this a good time of day for you, Jesse, or no?
Yeah, what is it? It's like 4:00 in the morning or something. I usually finish my day job at like midnight my time. It's 4:00 in the morning right now, so like midnight my time is when I'm sort of finished and ready to do my wind down time. But when you're doing afternoon shows or early evening shows, that's like, I'm in bed for sure by that point.
I figured, and that's why I noticed we probably haven't seen you. So I'm going to try to do this again tomorrow, and just so we can get through all these documents and everything for our morning show. I'll bring it in around the same time, Jesse, if you want to pop back in, and we can just pick up where we left off and continue on through the rest of them.
Absolutely. I always love chatting with you and my man, Eddie. I was absolutely shocked to find out Harsh's man, Eddie, is an our man, Eddie, even though the way Harsh describes him, it sure sounds like our man, Eddie.
It does, and I'm glad.
I wonder if they're I wonder if it's a fictional Eddie, and I wonder if they're just like trolling me and teasing
It,
me.
it, it does sound like a troll on you. It really
Yeah,
does sound
I
like a
think so.
troll. Like
It
either
could.
somebody's trolling Harsh by like
Yeah.
copying your persona,
Yeah.
or Harsh is trolling us all.
I don't.
I think it's a troll. I really do
We're
think it's a troll.
we're all
does.
being trolled.
Well, I'm grateful that we get to keep our Eddie and nobody else has him. And that we get to have the knowledge that we get from him and his amazing note taking. But yeah, I believe you guys. I think it is too, which is fine because he's our Eddie, and I'm grateful to have him here. So that's what matters. So, and again,
We've
Eddie,
got
always,
we've got the real Eddie
that's it. That's all that
right
matters.
here.
That's all that matters. And yes, it says it right there. Dan just said, Eddie, you're a national treasure, and we absolutely are grateful to have you here, my friend. So yes,
Thank you guys.
absolutely, bud, and it's great to have you both up here. Willie, the short period he was, I appreciate him too. And everybody else in chat, you guys are amazing, gentlemen. Thank you again for joining me. Hopefully, I'll see you again tomorrow around the same time. You guys have a great night, and I will see you
Good
soon.
night, everybody.
Thanks everybody for joining us. Love you all.
Take care, brother. Both of you.
Pleasure.
All right, bud. Everybody in chat, as always, thank you guys so much for being here for this. Sorry that we didn't get to catch up with more than this, but the interview kind of stalled us down a little bit. We'll get back to it tomorrow and finish it up for sure. Everybody in chat, you guys are amazing. I appreciate you all being here and supporting the channel in any way, fashion that you have. Just being here is enough, and I appreciate and love each and every one of you for that. Another great panel today with some really, really great and insightful gentlemen. It was great, and I appreciate it. And moderators, as always, thank you so much for everything you do. All you amazing meatballs, thanks for jumping in the sauce with us today. Guys, don't forget to love yourselves and love each other. Don't change nothing. You guys are the beautiful people. Don't forget, folks, believe in yourselves because it truly is the only one you can believe in. So we will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Down the shadows, bringing wrongs to right. Digging deep in the data, facts sharp as a knife. With every single story, he's fighting for a life. A voice for the voiceless, he won't stay quiet. Diego's got the fire igniting the fight. True crime revelation shining through the night. With every victim story, he pulls at the strings. A hero in the darkness, hear the truth he brings. From the shadows he rises, streaming loud and clear. Cracking cases, open hearts filled with fear. His channel's a beacon in a world gone wrong. He guides us through the chaos, a soldier so strong. The clicks and the lights, they follow his lead. With every new case, he plants a new seed. Sharing their stories, giving hope where it fades. Diego's a warrior through the trials he waits. In a world of silence, he shouts out their names. Diego's got the fire igniting the fight. True crime revelation shining through the night. With every victim story, he pulls at the strings. A hero in the darkness, hear the truth he brings. From the shadows he rises, streaming loud and clear. True crime revelation shining through the night. With every victim story, he pulls at the strings. A hero in the darkness, hear the truth he brings. From the shadows and moments, he won't let us fall. Bringing the truth out, answering the call. For every soul forgotten, he's here to stand tall. Diego the genuine, he'll always give it his all. Diego's got the fire igniting the fight. True crime revelation shining through the night. With every victim